Hello, everyone, and welcome at the FIDE Candidates Tournament 2022 Pool B. We are having round two, second game, and a lot of excitement ahead of us. We're your commentators, Grandmaster Arturs, Neiksans, and Women Grandmaster Keti, Tsatsalashvili, and we're greeting you on both of our channels on YouTube and also on Twitch.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome everybody and Keti. Again, we are back another day, another game, so to speak. And so far, the Pool B games don't disappoint. The semi-final match between Alexander Goryachkina and Tanzhanki. It was a thriller to start with. Of course, these are the best players in the world fighting for the chance to meet the current world champion Juven Yun in a match. But of course, first, they have to fight against each other, and then there's going to be FIDE candidates, Pool A and B winner match to determine the challenger for the championship title. Lei Tingji, the winner of Pool A, already is waiting for her opponent, and here we see today's pairings. Tanzhanki is going to have chance today to play with the white color, and this time try to capitalize on the one move advantage.
That's right. Yesterday, 98 moves has been played. Just about 100 moves where Tanzhanki was pressing a lot in the end game, and Goryachkina was standing very strong, and the game ended in a draw, although we consider that Tanzhanki could get a little bit more advantage, maybe even winning advantage at some point, but as it was very long day, players seems to get a little bit tired, and now the question is how they gonna start today. Obviously, they are both extremely tired after playing about 6 hours. We have to sneak peek in the playing venue to see how they are doing today. And here we have both of the players at the board already.
Right, and I'm not really sure what's going to be the start of the game, which opening. I would guess it's probably going to be D4. I mean, yesterday, Keti, it was a bit funny. I thought that maybe Goryachkina is going to open the game with E4 because that's where Tanzhanki had already shown what she had prepared for this tournament. But no, I mean, Goryachkina decided to keep her approach with D4, and here we have this time Tanzhanki with white. I'm pretty sure it should be D4 because again, if I would find it to be really surprising if she had prepared both D4 and E4 for one tournament. So I would say something like D4, D5, and then whatever happens.
Yeah, very likely the Queen's Gambit decline might happen here with the Goryachkina. We're going to see her choice. We're going to see what is her preparation. At one of the interviews, Goryachkina said that she's just warming up in the round two. This is already round two. She convincingly won the match against Alexandra Kostyniuk. And at this point, she might already feel that she's back in shape. And let's see what is her preparation. So hard to predict anything for this strong tournament because they obviously have some kind of secret lines that they would like to surprise their opponents.
Absolutely, and I think Tan hears at slight disadvantage because she does not know what Goryachkina has prepared against D4, and we can be absolutely sure there has to be a new idea. So the first critical move, I think we are going to witness in a couple of seconds, D4. Now, what has Goryachkina prepared for this tournament? Because in her quarterfinal match against Alexandra Kostyniuk, she was facing first move E4. Time to show your cards, Alexandra.
D4, D5 has been played. Tan will go with the C4. Now the question is she going to accept the gambit? With C takes D4, will she deny that? She goes with Slav defense.
With the Slav. Okay, very quickly, I do not recall if this was the main repertoire of Alexandra. Maybe we can check it a bit later. Probably. This already is a part of surprise. So the Slav defense is a very popular level at the highest level. I mean, there's a number of ways how white can go for some claim for advantage. Knight C3, very sharp continuation here. Could we potentially see the so-called Botvinnik variation with E6, Bishop G5, which leads to a huge theoretical mess? Or D takes on C4, which is more controlling things in the center. There's also a6. No, e6. Goryachkina plays e6. And this, dear viewers, can lead to sharp line after bishop g5. Now, the big question is if the Chinese grandmaster is ready for that. Is she ready for the Botvinnik or Moscow, whatever happens?
I can answer this, Artur. I can freely answer this because how I know that, I just checked the games of them where Tan Zhongyi was with white pieces. And out of 3 games, I can see in 2 games, it was d4 and it was exactly this setup. But starting with second move e6 and then c6. So basically, they have played this opening already earlier, 2 times very least. And there, funny detail in one of the game where Tan Zhongyi played first move e4, Goryachkina responded with c6, which is Karkan defense. So she does like to play c6, e6 to maintain the center strong, and then perhaps to sharp up the position with the d takes c4. But I can tell you that they have seen this position already in this match.
Yeah, probably, right? And now, I guess the slight pause from White's perspective is that she is not exactly sure. She hadn't looked up this continuation, I guess. She was expecting something else. There you go. Bishop g5. Is this a war declaration right here? Because black can take on c4 and go for very sharp lines. Maybe let's just not show them because Alexandra has to make a very big decision here. Is she going to go for it? Because that would require the player with the best memory and skills to recall those lines to be on top of things, right? So d takes on c4 is a very interesting continuation here, but of course she can play something else as well.
She can start with h6 at the beginning, which is fine, and also keeps the chances to play d takes c4 next move. That's another possibility. Artur, to talk about these openings, why Tan Zhongyi took here some moment to think is that earlier Goryachkina took on c4 right away before developing the knight on f6. And now she did not take on c4 and she didn't go for d takes c4. She is keeping the knight on f6 well protected.
All right, so knight bd7, of course, is a very normal move. And here, c takes on d5, immediately responded by Tan Zhongyi. All right. Normally, black recaptures with the e-pawn in these structures, because the point is, if you take with the c-pawn, black has already committed to the knight on d7, because let's say here, we would take on d5 immediately. Now, black can take on d5, which would actually sort of ring a bell. What happened in the first game yesterday, you remember, right? It's slightly odd. What was it? Yanovsky variation or something very similar. And black plays knight on c6. And Keti, I do believe it's a very good strategy in general. In case the viewers, you're wondering how to improve your game, try not to pin, not to chain the knights together, right? Because they're taking away space from each other. So knight c6 is the common way to play, and that's why after knight b to d7, now Tan Zhongyi takes on d5, because after she takes on d5, black has sort of already committed to knight on d7, but I guess it's still not a big deal.
Well, about these knights on f6 and d7, when I was starting to play chess, I thought it was a very smart idea to guard each other. But then later on, the practice showed me that one knight should fight to the other side of the board, another should take control the rest of the things. And also the most important in chess is the piece activity. So it's always good to start with the activity rather than to start defending the pieces, which is probably not so not such a big problem right now in this position. Talking about here, he takes d5 as well, Artur. I have seen some of the positions where knight developed on d7. Black goes knight b8 and knight c6, losing so much time to get this knight at the proper square, because that's exactly where the knight belongs in these positions.
Right, because otherwise there could be some problems at the C file. So think about most like rook c1, bishop f4, knight b5 even, right? And this knight on d7 is sort of making all of black's pieces looking bad. But I mean, anyway, I mean, e takes on d5 was played. And this looks very similar to what Tanjunki was playing in, I think it was game 1 or game 2, pardon me, if I don't remember correctly, against Katerina Lagno in the classical game. And they played it something like this, d4, d5. It was the classical setup of the Carlsbad, putting the bishop on g5, the pawn on e3. Maybe it was a different order than most. And the idea is that white plays often bishop d3, trying to stop black's bishop f5. And if we go to the current position here, after whatever here, after bishop e7, white has already committed the knight on f3. And in the game against Katerina Lagno, she did play bishop d3, knight g to e2, which often goes for the f3, e4 ideas. And you remember she actually got quite a nice position after the opening. But here, knight f3 is more like a classical way to continue.
That's right. This is the starting position of all kind of Queen's Gambit declined. However, knight e4 when h6 is not played yet, that is not a very popular line here, Artur, right? Because you want to eliminate the dark square bishop. With this maneuvering knight to e4, but you start to play first h6. Can we show that to our viewers instead of knight e4?
Yeah, let me maybe look at it from the different angle. So I will show you the classical way, right? So the way at least I understand it. So here, if white goes for this order the most, right? After bishop g5, c6, e3, bishop e7, bishop d3 here, and knight f3. Now, sometimes, oh, sorry, not knight f3 here. I think it's queen c2 first. And now the trick is, white is threatening bishop f6, win the pawn on h7, and I think it's first, something like this, yeah. And now knight e4 doesn't work. Why is this? Because I can take the bishop on e4. You recapture on g5, I snatch the pawn on h7. And now, after knight e4, if you are gonna take with the knight, I think I just mixed up. Yeah, knight e4, d takes, and somehow black... Yeah, somehow black loses the pawn. I mean, okay, I'm not really remembering precisely, but the big point is, I mean, the big point where I want to go with this, pardon me, it is here after knight f3, black plays h6 so that the bishop at h4 is under attack. So that after the double capture on e4, those knights, they're not protecting the bishop. So in a nutshell, that's the idea. And when you go back to this position, what they have on the board after knight e4, you see that white is not threatening to take on e4 yet, because the bishop on g5 is going to be under attack. And that's why Goryachkina carries out the typical plan to trade off the dark square bishop and position the other knight on f6.
Yeah, that's right. However, with this plan to trade the dark square bishop, you're not really going there, because white just played bishop to f4, and this knight is not attacking the bishop. Shall we just, they're playing so fast, but shall we show this h6 move to point out what I really meant there?
All right.
Like after h6, bishop to h4, and now knight to e4. This is one of the common lines, because now you are not escaping to trade. You have to trade the bishop either for dark square bishop and take on e7, or you have to play bishop to g3, which you allow me to take this bishop and to play this position against pair of bishop. So I was a bit surprised to see knight e4. However, next her moves that she blitzed out makes me feel that this is her home preparation, and she did not really miss any lines here, because after bishop f4, which is a very logical move here, white should not trade the dark square bishops. Now she played Goryachkina knight d7 to f6.
Yeah, I mean, there's some nuances. Also after h6, white could play bishop f4, and now after bishop f4, again, the question is, can you play knight h5 here? I think you can. But sometimes, actually, you can wonder, I think it was, let me find a scenario where it's actually possible. There was this trick after knight h5, knight e5, and trapping the queen on c7, right? But I don't think it's here. I don't think it's here. You know what I'm talking about, right? So this knight h5, you sometimes need to watch out for the knight x on the e5 idea, but I don't think it's here really. So something like bishop e5 could be an idea. Then after the capture, either d takes, this knight is sort of disconnected from the game, or after knight e5, you lose a couple of tempos. So, I mean, it's really nuances, and let's just say the players are still within their preparation really deep.
That's right. We were talking about the knights guarding each other, taking the spaces from each other. But at this point, when one knight is on e4, another knight on f6, they are supporting each other to control the key point here. And the key point is the square on e4. So they improved the position. However, this maneuvering also gives up e5 square. So white can, at some point, start to occupy that square, knight e5, for instance, then to push f3, and after castling rook e1, rook t1, white can also think to push the pawn on e4 in the center to get some space advantage.
That is a very logical idea, right? So even if black has managed to put a knight on e4, it doesn't immediately guarantee him really a great game. However, I do believe that black is doing all right. But the short castle already done, black is thinking about playing bishop f5 next, and possibly try to trade the bishops. Because again, if you would go back to this position from the start, the typical problem child of black's position is this bishop. And very often in these cusp structures, for example, again, I'm going to go back, I guess, a couple of times here, c4, c6, knight f3, knight f6, c takes, which is essentially the same, but there's some nuances which change. White's plan normally is based against this bishop, right? So that you can't really play bishop f5, you can't easily play bishop g4 because it just loses so much time.
That's right. So far, how Goryachkina is going to solve this problem is to play bishop f5. The knight is a very good shield for the bishop. And then after bishop is already developed on f5, this bishop can go on g6, or knight can start to trade the pieces. However, that's also quite a committed move, because like after bishop f5, you cannot that freely take the knight on c3, because I might take f5 bishop instead of the knight. And also when you go bishop to g6, knight e5 creates some kind of threat.
Yeah, like this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, here, a3, I mean, of course, a3 is a ridiculous move, but just to show the point, right? So knight x on c3 is not yet even a threat, probably because white wins this very strong bishop.
That's right. Wow.
I'm also wondering, Keti, of course, this is still prep, but after bishop f5, I might have either the same idea to play knight e5, or maybe even knight h4. So combining your ideas that you said, you want to play f3, I guess knight e5 makes a bit more sense. And how do you exactly deal with this? Because if you play bishop g6, I think in general, white is quite happy to go for something like this, because e4, gaining a center backed by two bishops, is white's dream.
I agree. That's indeed the position white wants to play. So castle is the position now. Goryachkina is taking a little bit here some thoughts. Maybe she will go here something like rook to e8 or bishop to d6, or combine these two ideas to try to trade the dark square bishops. So far, white has played all the moves that white needs to play in this structure, and black made these extra moves with the knight. So I think black might have something to solve here, and that's not so easy to get rid of bishop on c8. As we have just pointed out, knight h4, knight e5 ideas, f3 ideas. And also after bishop d6, you would like to trade the dark square bishop, but white will play knight e5 and cover this diagonal with a knight. And yeah, still f6 is something that I would love to play next move.
I'm not sure really what black has to continue here, right? So we can simply assume it's still part of the prep. Maybe the idea of knight e6, g6, bishop f5. I mean, one of the common themes. So the knight on d6, it looks a bit odd to you, maybe, dear viewers, but this is one of the common ideas for the Cospad, because let's say white does something like, whatever, let's say rook e1, G6, now bishop f5 seemingly is unstoppable. And if black carries it out, then he has achieved the trade of this pretty much difficult to develop bishop, and then does something active in the center, right? But here's the thing, I'm not sure if that's going to work, because after, let's say, knight e6, white can still play knight e5, and after g6, again, there's the move f3. And you need to evaluate this properly, because bishop f5, e4, you need to calculate that. Is this a possibility? Maybe there's some tactical shots or sacrifices, or you start to go aggressive at the queen side with some c5, b5 stuff, etc. Or maybe there's even knight h5. This is where you show your theoretical knowledge.
Yeah, indeed. It's still, however, here Goryachkina has taken a little bit of her time. That's very interesting, Artur, how the players are feeling the position. And like, here's the situation, the players that are playing this position, they have some kind of ideas how to evaluate the position. There is this engine tells us some of its ideas, and there we are here, commentators, and there are our spectators, so a lot of thoughts here. But I think all of us would agree that yesterday Tanjongi had great chance to win the game because she was having better position. But there is someone very important who thinks in another way. And now let's take a look at the interview of Goryachkina Alexandra right after her game yesterday.
Alexandra, thank you for joining us. I know it was a very difficult, dramatic game. Can you tell us a little bit how you're feeling and how did you manage to save this hard position?
Александр, расскажите о своих ощущениях после такой тяжелой игры и как вам удалось выйти с такой тяжелой позиции?
Ну, в целом я не считала, что у меня прям тяжелые позиции. Ну, как-то ходили, вроде бы, ну так, по ощущениям, никаких проблем я, ну, чисто практических не получила. Может быть, она и могла где-то сильнее сыграть, но не сыграла.
Okay, we know it was a hard end game, so thanks for telling those few words and have a good rest and good luck tomorrow.
Спасибо.
We are back after interview. I think the shortest interview I have ever seen, 40 seconds or 44 seconds, but we got so much information. We got exact information what we wanted to know. And Artur, I think that Goryachkina has a lot of confidence and trust herself and her position way too much.
Well, I beg to differ what Alexandra had to say. I think she was definitely outplayed yesterday, and Black was very close to winning. That's what it looked like from our perspective. But, I understand also Alexandra's perspective as well, right? The match is still ongoing, and it's all about the confidence. It's all about how you feel for the game. Maybe she didn't really want to reveal all how she was really feeling about that game. As she said, it's, slightly downplayed. There was nothing special. I was holding on, but I don't agree, right? I think there were some major problems for White, and it did look like there was one shot for Black necessary, and White's position would crumble. But anyway, let's put it to rest, because that's yesterday's news already. It was a very exciting day, of course, and today they're back. And still fighting to find out who is going to challenge the final opponent in the candidates tournament, Lei Ting-ji.
That's right. But also there was a second part of the sentence when she said that her opponent Tan Zhongyi could play somewhat better, which also, emphasized that there was a chance to play something better. So it's interesting. It's a battle of not only chess game, guys. It's a battle of a psychological game, and I think that's okay not to show all your cards, how you felt, what's your preparation, did you feel, because maybe they will find themselves in the very similar position, and not to show the cards at this point, at the second, the first part of the match also makes a lot of sense. However, we have this position now. Bishop d6 has been played by Goryachkina after several minutes of the thoughts. She wants to trade the dark square bishops. Artur, if she
please continue. I just wanted to say it's an actual pawn sacrifice.
Yeah, because if you take on d6, let's take a look.
No, take on e4. It's a pawn, right? That's what I see. That's the first move which jumps to my mind. My opponent plays bishop d6. I ask a question, for what reason? We have to check that. I know what's the reason, I think, but let's say take it here. Take it. You have to take it. Now, bishop d6, white loses a piece. Not very good. I'm going to take it. Black takes it here. And now there could be either knight e4 or bishop g4. So maybe even actually, Keti, it could be knight e4, queen e4, and now some sort of a slower move like h6, stopping knight g5, and this bishop gets to d5. This is a pawn sacrifice. I think part of the home preparation of Goryachkina, and with the bishop on d6, she's ready to give up the pawn, but solve her opening problems.
Yeah, that's very interesting position. And black has very nice pawn structure. White has this loose pawn structure in the opening. And that was perhaps the moment why she decided to think here. We will definitely get the same position. Doesn't matter if white takes with the bishop on e4 and goes to that line and captures the pawn with that line. We eventually will get the same position.
Yeah, that's what it looks like, because here after bishop f4, knight f6, queen f6. Take it. There's actually even some bishop f5 ideas. So, right. But probably, black can still go for the same stuff. Again, h6. h6, I think it's necessary, because after bishop e6, you get knight g5. Black is not careful. There's the mate threat. There's the knight e6 threat. You can't do that. So that's why here, after knight e4, queen e4, h6, and I don't think this is a possible threat to stop. Unless, of course, here white plays in return a positional pawn sacrifice and does something like d5. For example, again, let's just show it very quickly. Of course, I see there's rook e8, etc., but let me just show the idea. Maybe this could be something that white could consider to play, keeping the knight on d4.
Oh yeah, you just show very nice setup against an isolated pawn, and this is kind of position where knight can obviously dominate the bishop, as this bishop is quite limited. But also the thing is, when you go to this line, there's for sure knight e5 here, this move that white keeps all the pieces on the board, and Tan Zhongyi will take here some time to think either this one or to go to the line where she gets the pawn. Can we still once again go through this line where black sacrificed the pawn and give the final evaluation in that position? Yeah,
it's got to be the critical move. Of course, you can't easily walk past it. If your opponent sacrifices a pawn, it's your first top choice. You check it. Can I take it? Can I do this? There's, by the way, also this bishop g4, which I didn't really analyze it very deeply because I simply did not have time. But we can assume there could be something like knight x on g4 or bishop h7, knight g4, and maybe somehow white can claim an advantage. So that's why I think that here, knight e4, this must be part of Goryachkina's plan. Maybe rook e8 first, quite difficult to tell. And after d5, I mean, okay, maybe d5 is not really necessary, but I'm not in the mood to allow black to position the bishop on d5.
That's right. Another thing, Artur, what gets my attention is instead of taking on d4 with e4 with the knight, just 2 moves back. At this point, e takes f. Yeah, let's take knight e4, d takes e4, bishop takes e4, bishop takes f4, pawn takes f4. And at this point, how about queen to d6? We are targeting the pawn on f4. If you play this knight e5, as we showed, the queen d4 can happen, and this is even better position for black. And if you play g3, you additionally weaken the light squares on the king side. And after all, this idea, knight takes bishop, queen takes bishop, bishop e6, bishop d5, will be way stronger because now this is a long diagonal that bishop will control. Starting with
that is a good point.
Not to allow white to play knight g5, yeah? Just
that is a very good point. I agree. Queen d6 definitely could be a move. Yeah, as well. I mean, maybe g3 is not the only move. Maybe there's something like knight e5, queen d4. Now we could continue the line with rook e1, etc. But this looks like part of the prep, and that's why also Tanjanki looked at it for like 3 minutes and said, now it doesn't look like I can go there.
Trust you that you gave up.
That makes sense. It makes sense, especially that Goryachkina spent something like 5 minutes. You think she sacrificed the pawn in 5 minutes? She had no idea what's going on? Of course not. I think she was just sitting there and trying to recollect what was in the file. Because every single professional reviewers, they have the so-called chess files, usually on ChessBase, which is the most popular software for chess professionals. And they have these files. And they just sit there and trying to recall, I mean, what was in this file, right? So maybe they have a lot of chapters, a lot of files, a lot of lines. This actually reminds me, like, who was this Gramster working for Vladimir Kramnik? Maybe it was Yefimenko, Zakhar Yefimenko, maybe, okay, doesn't matter. But somebody said that Kramnik was requiring the analysis to have always 8 concatenations. Every single move, there's 8 concatenations, 8 concatenations, 8 concatenations. 8! Not 2, like 3, probably. 8, right? And it just shows the level of the preparation, and somebody has to do this job, unfortunately. So the player who is sitting there, he's just sitting what was in this 8th line, 15th move, 5th concatenation, right? And you're trying to recall. And that's why, again, the memorization of lines is very, very important. And we have such a genius like Magnus Carlsen, who has a photographic memory. He remembers everything. And everybody else is more or less a human being, right? I mean, we forget things all the time. And that's why, of course, if you have a very good memory, you're destined to be a great player.
I think another player which has a great memory and great preparation, computer preparation, is Ding Liren. To me, because he is always very sharp. He always goes with the first engine lines. And he basically never mixed up the preparation in the opening, and I think that's another player I would name that he's very strong at the memorizing the lines. That's actually very important. The first important thing is to have an ability to analyze within engine, or to have seconds or coaches to have these analyzes. And the second thing is like, okay, you have these analyzes, but you have to remember. It's good to have in your room in the laptop. It's very good, but you don't have connection with that. You cannot really connect with that legally. So you have to have a good memory to memorize all of these things. And there are probably different techniques how these players are working through the process and how they are memorizing the lines. And Artur, I can recall many interviews where all these top guys were saying like, yeah, I was thinking what is in this line. I was just remembering what was written there.
Of course. That's where the best players in the world, they're investing incredible amounts of time, or their seconds are investing incredible amounts of time, but somebody has to remember it all, right? So competitive chess has moved on by miles forward, and it's just not what it seemed to be before. So you need to have a very solid, strong opening prep with a lot of theoretical discoveries in order to get somewhere. Otherwise, you're never going to set problems. So knight e5 must have been part of the Goryachkina's prep because she did not play knight h5. I thought maybe knight h5 was a move, continuing with the idea to sacrifice a pawn, but it's actually not so simple, Keti, because there's another pawn on h7 hanging. Let's say take it, right. Whatever is the order of the moves here, take it, and yeah, I guess I can even take it. Here, take it, and after g6, there could be some problems.
Difficult to sacrifice tell. That one.
Yeah, difficult really to tell. So, I mean, Goryachkina says, okay, I mean, rook e8, so be it. And h3, look at that. She played against Lagno on the same stuff, h3 already.
Yeah, I remember that. White 3, first thought is to avoid some kind of g4 stuff. Knight g4, take on knight g4. Second thing is you free the square for the bishop on h2. And Arturs was even more creative to point out that g4 is a kind of idea too. It's like, I remember you wanted in that game g4 somewhere, right? Or it was something else? We have seen so many games together, Artur. I'm having some kind of...
Here, g4. Where was this?
Yeah, there was this h3, king h2, g4, g5 to attack on the king side. You were suggesting this very nice idea.
Oh, it was matches. It was yesterday, no? It was Goryachkina. I was trying to cook something for Goryachkina, was it? I mean, in one of the lines, I was suggesting that you could go totally crazy and try to play g4, g5, but that was with the hook on h6. Here, the pawn stands on h7. I'm not really sure. But you know, Keti, I'm slightly puzzled. I don't understand. Why not f3? Because the way I see this position, f3 is very tempting. I think that's why she played knight e5 here, right? She played knight e5 to play f3. Now, Goryachkina responded with rook e8.
Artur, there is, I think, this idea of knight c5.
What?
Knight c5.
Really?
So if you take on c5, I take on e5, and you have the weakened pawn on e3. So.
Oh my goodness, knight c5, really? So d-takes bishop e4. How do you spot these things? I mean, I did not see that. So great response, knight c5, and this actually explains the reason why here Goryachkina played rook e8. She enables the response of f3 with knight c5, because if she would have to take on c3, this is a dream scenario for white. I mean, she gets the center, the knight on e5 is secured. Then you could play h3 whenever you wanted, play e4, secure the center. Knight c5? And the idea is to kill the bishop here. So after something like bishop e2, knight e6, something seems to be wrong with white's position, because e4 is not happening anytime soon, and that's why Tanzhenki played h3.
Yeah, and very often in this position, what I'm very often afraid is when I play f3, if e4 is not right away my response, then black can play c5. And I feel just like my center is going to break down with this response of white's c5 move. So perhaps Tanzhenki wants to be ready for f3 and then e4 right away, and she's just making this waiting move. You know, this bishop now on f4 will no longer be hanging after knight h5. She will play first rook e1, rook d1, this kind of preparing move, and then at some point she will go through this f3, e4 idea for sure.
I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, I admire the d4 systems. So, for one reason, you can always include some slow moves like h3 and a3, and they, for some reason, make sense, right? Yeah. Also, one of my very good friends, Igor Kovalenko, right, grandmaster, he has discovered several interesting, tricky ideas. Also, we were playing for Team Latvia for many years. That's how I know him really so good. He discovered a lot of interesting ideas which involve some very known theoretical positions, but then you include some seemingly useless move h3, and then something like 10 moves later, you prove the point, right? So h3, it's not even just about something simple as knight h5, stopping the threat, which probably is part of the idea. It's a very deep concept, and maybe it's just in case, you know, securing the square on g4 and asking black. I mean, what do you have?
Yeah, that's indeed a good question to ask to your opponent very often. Bishop f5 seems to be also being delayed, and I would not accept this. I would not deny this idea of g4, g5 at some point, Artur.
You really want to make it work, yeah? Okay. So g4, Keti is all about fire today. Okay, g4, bishop g6, and something like.
I woke up violent today.
You're for violence. You chose violence, yeah, today. I understand. So f3, knight c3, b takes on c3, and then you're gonna check my black. I see your point, right? I like it. But I don't think it's gonna happen, though. I mean, I think for something like g4, you need a help from black, some sort of opponent h6. But maybe, I don't know. We could see it still.
Right, waiting move, which also gets some of the opponent's time, because this is the move. I'm not making anything wrong with this move, but I'm waiting. I'm waiting for you will play passive or you will just play something else. Goryachkina decided to take the knight on c3. That's interesting choice because
very interesting
bring another
choice.
Knight on e4, definitely. So her point is, Artur, that after knight e4, white cannot take bishop e4, d takes e4, and queen e4 because you will lose the piece with f6, perhaps?
I mean, this I get, right? f6, there's a pin, probably not a great idea, but it begs a very logical question. What after f3? Again, knight c5, really? But the pawn on h7 is under attack. So this time, I'm not sure these tricks are going to work for you again. Unless, of course, black is thinking something like f6. Come on, I don't think this is going to happen. It just... What is this? What's even this position? Maybe this is tactically somehow working, still part of the prep? I don't believe it. Take it, and let's say take on d5. Now, your pawn is here under attack on h7. Let's just make it slower, right? So knight e4, f3, knight f6 makes no sense because why do you waste two tempos just like that? So I guess f6.
Right.
And now I take it. You have to take it. I take with a pawn to force you to take. Including this trade changes nothing. So I just win a pawn, right? I mean, very basic calculation, even without looking for some nuances. So this is definitely worse for black. No, I don't think Keti knight e4 is happening. But what? What is happening? You know, I was looking at something like knight e7, but this tactically doesn't work.
Knight f7 or knight c6.
Exactly. It doesn't work because nice idea. Knight e7, bishop f4, you equalize, but it's all about the tricks. Maybe knight f7 to expose the king. Not even mentioning bishop h7, pardon me, what I'm even talking about. So this bishop h7 is still there. So knight e7 is definitely not happening.
Yeah. Okay, that's if not knight e7, knight e4, there's not bishop f6. What is her idea? Maybe she wants to, but this is a bit too slow to play queen c7, to guard the bishop on d7, then to play h6, and then to play knight d7. It's kind of time consuming, although Goryachkina says it's fine and I can...
Goryachkina says, with all due respect, Keti. And she plays queen c7.
We have a major disagreements. We have a big disagreements.
So she's going to go for knight e7. That's her idea.
First h7 is hanging, yeah?
Yes. So, okay, h6, then knight e7. She has real core cards. She wants to go knight e7. It's really simple. Otherwise, queen c7, okay, maybe there's some c5 ideas to play, but, you know, let me tell you, I'm going to be completely honest, Keti, here. Completely honest. I don't like Alexander's position. I don't like it. I mean, I feel that knight c3 b takes is a concession. I feel that you would want to keep some tension in the center. But since she has spent so little time on the clock, this means this is still sort of part of the prep. Maybe not exactly. Maybe she knows this position with something like, I don't know, a3, a5 included in some lines, and she's thinking, okay, this has got to be the same. But visually, I don't like it because I think white's idea to play f3, e4 is more serious. I think that black's threat of h6, knight e7 is simply slow. And even if she achieves that, white still has a very nice position.
Yeah, when you mentioned about all these things, right now, knight takes, and if this is a home preparation or so. I just checked how many games have been played in this very position. So Arturs, seems like knight c3 has happened in some of the games, and after b takes c3, then black had some choices of the moves like g6 or h6 or even c5, but seems like queen c7 is something that I don't see in a database at this point.
So we can assume it's still part of the prep. Because for such tournaments as FIDE Candidates tournament, you are preparing new ideas. And that's why it's not enough. It's just not enough to open the database, for the players or the coaches, and just play whatever has been played, because you assume your opponent has done pretty much the same, unless you choose a very rare line, which nobody has looked at. Maybe Staunton was playing this 100 years ago, right? But nobody else has looked at the line. So you have to make up your own ideas, of course, with the help of engines, critical thinking of the position. Okay, let's maybe try to shuffle a bit the pieces. So knight e7, probably not, because the pawn on h7 is dropping. And if I go for f3, e4 idea, how do we make it work? Can we make it work? Let's start with something like rook e1. Or it's slow. Maybe it's slow, right?
I would personally think here some moves like c4, c5 with white.
Okay.
But yeah, let's go through first this to understand what black really wants after queen c7.
Maybe the idea is to play g6, not h6. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe the idea is to play g6. And then play knight h5. No, knight h5 and f6. Maybe that's the idea. If I play f3, you play knight h5, attack the bishop, and after bishop h2, you play f6. Maybe it's not the idea is the trade on d7. Maybe the idea is to play g6 and f6.
Smart. That's smart. Although there's bishop g6 move here, yeah? Can I do that?
I don't want to calculate that, obviously. I don't know what's happening after bishop g6. Takes and takes. I see these threats and knight g7 and whatever happens. 3 pawns, exposed king. How do you evaluate that? I guess white is much better. Should be but much better. The king is exposed. The knight is strong. Should be much better. But yeah, it does mean it's not a lot.
The thing is, Artur, that I think it's more realistic idea to play g6, knight h5 with f6 or whatever knight g7 ideas rather than knight d7. Knight d7 is just too passive.
But maybe it just works. Maybe it just works, because if you don't play now f6, what do? I'm going to play yours g4, Keti. Now I'm going to play it. I have a target here in g6, or maybe just push e4. So I think if you say A, you have to say B as well, right? If you play knight h5, okay, maybe there's something like knight g7 first. And then you play f6. But I have a feeling, Keti, maybe it's all about knight e7. Maybe it's all about equalizing this game, because let's assume there's no immediate shots at the king side. Of course, there's knight g4,
knight g4 is something I wanted to just suggest now.
I don't argue. Yeah, absolutely. But maybe if white goes for this position, Goryachkina's prep says this is nothing, because takes, and well, it does look like quite something. I wouldn't say it's nothing. White has the center.
White has very good center. White has a semi-open file, f7, pawn that at some point you can always attack.
So it's got to be g6. It's got to be g6.
H5,
yeah, because when at h6, I think I should mention this. If you go for the same lines again, let's say rook e1, whatever, f3, knight h5. Now this leaves a lot of weaknesses, light-square weaknesses in black's position. So think about stuff like bishop h7 check. Here, now you're wondering if there's some checks, discover checks ideas, or even bishop g6. This is just not feeling right. That's why I think this g6 is probably part of the plan for Goryachkina. And she played this queen c7 as a part of the longer sequence. I don't know why g6 not right away. And c4 is played. Yeah, Keti, you suggested it. We didn't have a chance yet to have a look at it, and it's on the board.
Yeah, so the idea of c4 is that if you allow me, I will play c5. And with this diagonal, it's very unpleasant to move your bishop away. I will find the use of this pin, right? So if you take on c4, it's just bad position here with this pair of bishop with potential attack on the king side. But if you take on c4, now I do have this perhaps bishop takes to attack on f7, or maybe even queen takes first.
Okay, queen takes, bishop e6. Maybe this is the position that Goryachkina wants. Probably allow c4 and then play something like c5 and eventually liquidate, because black's position is pretty alright. There's no weaknesses. So the big question is, how important is white's pawn center? That remains to be seen. I mean, do you even go for e4 stuff? So let's say after d takes, we go back to bishop c4, bishop e6. Can white take the center with something like e4? Probably not. It's going to become quite vulnerable.
Yeah. So I think bishop d3 to keep this tension on the king side, and somehow to play rook to b1, maybe a4, a5, a6 at some point.
And now I could challenge you in the center, something like c5.
Okay. So
I guess I have
makes
to.
a lot of sense.
I have to play c5 at some point. Otherwise, what I'm doing, I just gave up the center for no good reason. So they're like rook c1, rook c8, queen b8, or queen e7. And this bishop is actually pretty good, looking at pawn on a2.
Yeah, this c4 idea looked better when all the pieces were on the board. Now it seems like black is just getting rid of one weakness at a time, and soon black will not have the problem. So after d takes c4, is there anything else we can think of?
I mean, after bishop e6, you could allow the bishop trade. But where does that lead? I don't know. Just make some move like rook fc1, stop c5. So let's say black takes it and takes it. And let me just show some ideal scenario for white. Probably it's not going to happen. Oh, okay, I drop on d7. How do I make it real?
That's the best dream.
Yeah, I mean, I just really want to show the idea. I mean, knight e7. Of course, there's shots on f7, but for the sake of the argument, I want to show the position. So I think this could be something that Tanjanki would love to get, more or less. I mean, I guess it's still quite drawish at some point because you're lacking pieces, but you have a pawn majority at the center. Idea is to play e4, d5 at the right time. These pawns are slightly not doing much. And that's why it's quite important for white to stop the c5, because as soon as black takes c5 and takes on d4 in any kinds of those positions, it's quite difficult for white to get anything real out of the position. I'm really guessing here, but I'm not sure if this c4 was really necessary at this point, but I feel that this was a bit more challenging, but okay, whatever. I mean, Tanjanki is happy with her choice.
Yeah, seems like c4 has been played now. Goryachkina is considering to take it. And also what she can do, Arturs, is to keep her... No, she cannot keep her plan and play like g6 or h6, because c5 is the move. Maybe black can play c5 and play in this position. Artur, look at this. If you take on d5, I will take first on d4.
But I think it's a risky choice, no? Because you're underdeveloped and you're opening the center. I mean, I understand the reasoning. Oh, wait,
yeah,
but it's very
specific.
specific.
Just eliminate the pieces. And
yes, it's very concrete. I totally agree. It's very concrete. Actually, wait. So c5. So if I can't take on c5, I drop my knight. If I take it, you take it here. Queen trade, the knight on d4 is losing support, and take it, knight e5, we can assume this is great. And look at this, you no longer have this bishop h7 trap, because the queen on c2 is traded.
Right, it's not hanging anymore. And I think black will have here enough time to develop the bishop first, then connect the rooks, and play against the isolated pawn is not so bad after all.
But wait, this line could still continue. I'm not convinced. So let's say rook c1. And Again, you don't really have to take. You could play bishop e6 and whatever happens after that. But c takes, e takes, d takes, bishop c4. Your queen is a bit, not where it's supposed to be. And bishop e6 tactically doesn't work because of this intermezzo check. This entire sequence looks a bit, balancing. And I don't think Goryachkina plays like this. And she already took on c4, by the way.
Yeah, she took on c4, which is a very clean continuation. You don't mess up the things. Obviously, she doesn't want to find herself 2 games in a row in a defensive side, and she's with the black pieces. That's a bit challenge sometimes at the opening. So after d takes c4, bishop already captured on c4, and bishop e6 is on the board, as I see. Offering the bishop trade, we agreed that after rook to f to c1 or rook to a to c1, white is still keeping some slightly better situation in the center. But the question is if that's enough, if white wants to get more advantage here and play for a win.
That's a very good question. Yeah, does white have it enough? But she already committed herself to c4, so there's no stepping back now. Maybe she can consider to keep the bishop on d3 for some purposes to target this pawn. But now this bishop on a6 is going to be really strong. There was a mention in the chat. I would like to address it on Twitch chat. There was a mention that about this c5, that one of the viewers does like the structure because you never know how and when to take. But this is about a very important topic. It's about keeping the tension in the center, and the stronger you are, the better you understand where you have to keep the tension or create the tension in the center, because typically at the club level, everybody likes to relieve the tension very quickly, to figure out things, to set things immediately straight so that I know what's happening here. And when you have stuff like this, when pawn can take on d5, pawn can take on c5, like first move, second move, third move, you're just burning immensely a lot of time. So it's very, very popular thing at the club level, immediately clarify things. And that's why when you ascend to a next level, you start to understand things a little bit deeper. Then you see that actually keeping tension in the center is a good thing, because maybe your opponent will try to clarify things for himself and thus make some concessions. Mm-hmm. 93 is on the board.
That's true. Oh, knight to d3. Look at this now. Tanjongi tries to eliminate the pieces of the board. So she allows bishop c4 and also bishop f4 to happen. And we might have the position with knights on the board. Knights and the heavy pieces on the board. Shall we take a look at that position, what really happens?
That's a great choice. I absolutely love it. And the reason is that she stops the c5. If the c5 trade happens, white has nothing at all. Right? And with the knights on the board, she keeps an option to play knight e3, knight c5, bother these pawns, create some weaknesses. So I wouldn't call Alexandra's choice the position she got as a success, really. Okay, most of the pieces are gone, but for white it's very easy, right? Rook b1, rook fc1, let me draw it to you here. Here, knight e3, knight c5, a4, a5, or maybe without a5, but you're pressing these pawns, and as soon as you play b6, now the pawn on c6 becomes a target. There's so many classical games played in a similar manner. White has no risk. There's no counterattack at the king side unless Goryachkina is going to find a checkmate after g5, g4, which I don't think is going to happen. So knight e3, she's going to appreciate the power of this move.
I like that too. After seeing this endgame, white has risk-free position. That's actually what you want in the match situation when you are very strong in the rapid portion as well. So you are having the position where you're not risking too much. Maybe you are not getting crazy advantage and winning on a spot, but to have a pleasant game. After all, it's going to take a lot of energy from your opponent to always play in a defense, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure what Goryachkina should do. Should she try to trade those pieces? Because, again, let's maybe talk a little bit about this trade. I'm not sure bishop c4 first, and then bishop f4 first, then knight c4. Maybe it doesn't matter. Let me just show some scenarios here. So these pawns are under attack. Now, what are you going to do with black? That's actually a big question. Let's say you play something like the rook d8 because there's a d file. I have an easy move, rook b1. You play knight e5, I decline. What do? Let's make some g6, rook fc1. Let's make something like king g7. I'm going to play knight c5. What do? That's a problem. These pawns are not moving forward. That's a problem. Black has a pawn majority at a queen side. It's not moving anywhere. I go here. And even if there's a scenario where black pushes c5, and I guess you're going to have to push c5 at some point, that's going to be blocked and become a target. For example, again, how do I properly make it work? Let's say something like this. Let's say queen d6, c5, d takes, b takes. There you go. Just one scenario, right? So now we have these doubled rooks. The pawn on c5 is a target. It's not going anywhere. I can block it. I can play queen a3. I can block it with knight c4. And despite the fact that black has this passed pawn, it's not bringing black a lot of joy. But this is the kind of position that Tan Zhongyi would love to get. I mean, start from about, where was this? About here. She would love to get sort of position like this because you look at the king side, I mean, there's no counterplay at all. You're missing like one piece or a couple of pieces of the king side to go for your game. And that's what it makes it really so strong. And perhaps Goryachkina has to figure out, maybe I need to trade this knight somehow, like bishop f5, you know? But okay, she took on c4.
Artur, at the point where Tan Zhongyi played knight d3, shall we go to that position to explain to our viewers once again? Because to many of our viewers, it might be a little bit unclear, right? You have this active knight on e5. It's black who should try to change the pieces because you have activity, you control everything, and you have strong pieces. Why don't you start to bring the rooks on the queen side right away with the pieces on the board? But when I'm starting to think more, knight d3 is such a high level of chess understanding that you are eliminating all the active pieces of black, and you're going to the end game where you have a clear advantage and your opponent has nothing at all. So that's a one line that black can get this position with a better situation. Knight is more active, white knight is gone on the edge of the board, but also black can just keep still some pieces on the board and it is game on. You never know what happens, but after knight d3, you eventually don't leave too much of the options here to your opponent. And once again, this knight d3 is so far, I am really amazed how Tan Zhongyi is playing. Also, yesterday's game, she was playing very interesting chess, very high class of chess. Just to be in this situation when you have active pieces and you'd go and change this to a different type of advantage, which is very, very little advantage, to be honest there. It's just pleasant position. It means that she is well prepared for this match.
Absolutely. So great choice for Tan Zhongyi. Again, I'm not really sure how serious is this advantage. Can you even call it an advantage at all? But it's a pleasant position. It's really pleasant. The simple plan to play. Already I said rook b1, rook c1, keep the knights, play knight c5. So perhaps, I mean, still Goryachkina is really cool here. She's going to keep the knight on d7. Perhaps the plan is to play something like b6, knight e7, and see what happens. But I don't think she's going to enjoy this, to be honest. So that's why I think that Tan Zhongyi has managed to achieve more in the opening than Goryachkina at least did, for example, yesterday.
Yeah, very interesting choice here. Goryachkina is thinking to take on f4 or maybe to play knight d5 first and give the ball to white. You take on d6. With your bishop, and my knight on d5 will be active. This knight on d5 actually looks very active. However, it doesn't have any targets. The pawn on e3 is well guarded. And Artur, shall we show this position? Like, for instance, knight d5, bishop takes d5. She goes knight e4, actually.
Knight e4. So it's fighting.
Same ideas.
It's fighting for the c5 square. That's her idea. Knight e4 is a good move. Okay, of course, there's the knight e2 fork, which is not a real threat, but it's all about taking care of c5. And she would love to trade the knights, because then it's going to be a bit easier for black to defend those slightly weakened pawns on b7 and c6. And if white wants to get rid of the knight with f3, well, then you have some weakness on g3, and also the pawn on e3 is under attack. I like this choice as well.
Yeah, it's a very provocative move.
It's nice. It's a nice move. I definitely like it. It shows a great understanding. Of course, instead of knight e7, which is a very passive move, knight e4, it's not only about centralizing the knight, it's about how you're going to get the knight on c5.
Yeah. Okay, so knight to2 now is a threat. You can obviously play rook to c1. You can also take the bishop on d6 and play knight e5. Next move to target f7 weakness in that way. Shall we see that line? What happens after bishop takes d6, queen takes d6, knight to e5?
So you're going back.
Seems like. But with some threats.
On f7. Okay, I mean, I could play queen e6, I guess.
Yeah, after queen e6, we don't really go to the very end game and trade the queens. And I would suggest queen c2 here.
Your idea is to push away the knight, because the knight on e5 is removing from some defense. You know, I start to think that Goryachkina, also part of her plan is to put the knight on d6, because with a Casped structure, which would be the pawn on d5 for black, the pawn on b2 for white, the knight on d6 is considered to be the best square, and the same applies for the knight on d3, because it just guards all of those squares. And I wonder if the same rule applies here as well, because now the pawn on b7 is actually well defended. So white could go back with knight e3, and she could go back with knight e4, again stopping this knight c5 idea. So knight e6, look at that. It's a great maneuver.
All right, our chat says that knight e4 is slightly inaccuracy, according to the engine, but I believe in this, at this point, engine is not that powerful as it is in the sharp positions, because to the human's perspective, knight e4 is a very interesting and challenging move. It stops white in the center. It also goes on d6 square, where it guards the pawn on b7, and also creates some kind of threats, knight d2. It's always good to play some active chess, which means that you have to create threats with all your moves, right? So, yeah, at this point, I don't understand what really engine meant by that. 94 seems to me very nice move.
I don't think it even matters, because the evaluation of the engine, it can really vary. I mean, you can have 0.0 or you can have 0.6. I mean, what does it really matter? It doesn't matter at all. So engine is built by humans, and they explain the computer some algorithms, right? And the algorithms take that into account: control of the squares, weakness of the king, outposts, and etc. You name it, right? But still, the human understanding, I think, sometimes is higher, because you perfectly understand where to position certain pieces. So unless there's like a dramatic jump of like 1 point, like from 0.1 to 1.1, okay, that's a very big difference, of course, because clearly something is terribly wrong. But if the difference is something like 0.3, it doesn't even matter. It's more about the ideas from the players. And also, I think we have to mention that we are not ever, I mean, I'm not using Keti sometimes when we have sharp positions, sometimes it's having a peak. We're basically not using engines. We're not using, we don't know what the engine is saying here. We don't have the bar. We have no idea. And that's why I think it's very good to explain it from the perspective of two grandmasters. Keti is a woman grandmaster, I'm a grandmaster myself, how we treat this position, and we are not looking at engine lines, because that would simply mess up with our understanding of the position.
Yeah, there was a few occasions when I can recall that the engine had great suggestions. And I like chess players and the people who work with the engines alongside, but not depend on engine. So this is also something very important, to have this kind of creative ideas that human can really think of. Like, I have been in many situations when I said like, oh no way, this is true, this is correct, or something like, wow, this is so amazing. So this engine is also the element of the chess world nowadays, and to work together with engine is a great power. I think Kasparov was one of the people who were asked that question, right, Artur? Like, people were asking him at interviews, do you think chess will not be interesting anymore because engine will destroy it now? And he had a very proper answer with that you just need to know how to use the engine and work along with the engine. And with this combination together, it creates all the excitement in chess. And guys, after all, it comes to the energy of the players right now. It matters what they feel, because we saw 40 seconds interview from Alexandra, and we definitely can see how she was evaluating the position, and she didn't care what engine said there. She cared how she was defending and how her opponent was attacking. So yeah, that's a very, very interesting concept indeed. And the game is interesting because there's always a bit of everything, a bit of blunders, a bit of dramas on the board, a bit of theory, some great moves, some boring moves sometimes too. And yeah, this is overall interesting to see chess and grow your knowledge in chess. But Artur, can you please tell me why rook to d1? Because in all the lines we were looking, white rook was going on b1, another rook was going on c1. But now Tanjongi decided to go on d file with the rook.
No idea. I'll tell you honestly, no idea. Perhaps she feels that the c5 threat is inevitable. I don't think so, really. And then the rook on the d file stands exactly where it belongs. Or her understanding is that it doesn't really matter the order of the moves, because it's not really such a forcing position. If black doesn't get to play c5, we are going to get more or less the same position. Why not rook fc1? I don't know. So whatever, for whatever reason, she did position the rook in d1. I guess we are going to find it out why. And
maybe she wants to push d5 here. Let's try d5.
Meaning create a pass pawn.
First of all, to create a pass pawn, and second of all, to look for some weaknesses on c6. Like, how would you play after d5? Rook c8? I will play rook c1, right? So next move, I might just take it on c6.
Maybe she realized that going after the pawn on b7 is not much, because black is going to play b6 anyway. And if black is going to play b6 anyway, then you need the rooks on c1, d1. Maybe that's the reasoning. But, I don't think it's really so important, because this position doesn't strike me as so critical that here you have to invest like 20 minutes, figure out what's the difference between rook d1 or rook c1. Just control those open files, have some ideas. Still, you need some help from your opponent, some inaccuracies. So rook d1, okay, so be it. And also Goryachkina positions the rooks on a8, on d8 and e8, semi-open files, and probably is thinking about c5 at some point later.
Rook d8 has been played. Black also controls d file at this point. Interesting time for of the choices now for Tanjongi. Will she go rook to c1? Will she go rook to b1? Maybe she will try something knight d3, knight c5, knight d5 ideas. So let's see. There is also this kind of plan here, Artur, to play a4, a5, push to a6. That idea, but definitely my first choice would be to develop the rook first, like on b1 at least, or c1, and then to start this kind of pawn push.
Of course. The rooks belong on open files. This rule has been around for quite a long time. I guess rook c1, probably because you position the rook on d1. Make sure you don't blunder any fork ideas at some point if you play rook b1. Yeah, it looks like it might head to a draw, but to be honest, there was a mention about this in the chat, but I wouldn't really jump with the conclusions, because there's still a lot of game ahead of us. I think it's simple. If black does manage to play c5 and take on d4, then we can talk about like complete equality. While it's still not there, white is entitled to press these pawns. Goryachkina also is going to have to show what she has prepared in store against the threat. Rook d7, g6, take up a cup of coffee and watch what white is going to do. Could be. And I wouldn't be surprised that after such a very tense game yesterday, the players would make a small break. I mean, Tanjanki would make the expression like she's the one trying, but actually they're so tired that they could be happy with a draw.
That's true. That's true. I don't know about them, but myself, I was so exhausted after yesterday's commentary because it was a really long game and we had the position like several times repeating. And imagine how tough it is for the players, and they need time for preparation for next game. They cannot just go and sleep and rest and have some chill evening. No, they are going to have preparation in the evening. They're going to have preparation in the morning. That's how their routine looks at this tournament. It is quite tough conditions what these players are having. It's a lot of work they're doing, which we cannot see, which we absolutely cannot see how they are dealing with the whole situation at the tournament and this competition. It is really, really high. So we have a4 happened here. Tanjongi decided to leave the rook on a file. Actually, when I said first move the rook and then start the pawn push, then I realized in the end of the sentence that you cannot do that. Like if you play rook b1, then a4, a5 is not even a threat. So Tanjongi makes it work properly. After a4, a5, the pawn on a5 is not hanging. So you definitely need this rook to be on a file. And Artur, if black allows white to go all the way to a6, then black's pawn structure will be fully damaged on the queen side.
Right. I think now the pace of the game is going to slow down a little, so we could use this opportunity to mention how the Women Candidates Tournament came to happen, because there is a major supporter of women's chess lately, and FIDE has managed to made a new deal with Establishment Labs, or Mativa, which is a brand of Establishment Labs. And now Establishment Labs is one of the partners of FIDE Women Candidates Tournament. So in case you don't know what it is a global medical technology company, and FIDE has made with them a landmark partnership agreement. And the whole purpose is to support women's chess, right? I think we definitely need that. So among the events from the Establishment Labs and its brand Mativa, they are supporting the World Team Chess Championship for Women, the Candidates Tournament for Women, the Women's World Rapid and Blitz Championships, and of course the World Championship match where Juven is waiting.
That is right. Indeed, we need more and more sponsors in chess overall and also in women's chess, because guys, this sport here for women is a pretty shaky situation. It's so much work that these players are investing, and so much energy, so much finances, and it is really tough to play for the small prizes. Because Artur, you are yourself a professional chess player. You know that these prizes that we're talking about now at this event, which is amazing, is not their like pocket money or something. They are going to pay for their seconds and coaches and cover all this cost that they are having. So that's why to keep the sport at the professional level, we need a lot of sponsors, and that's a very good start. In Poland, where I live now, it is quite common that some of the women's tournament, the sponsor of the event is the coffee and tea brand, very strong brand. And I love that. I really love that, because they have very delicious coffee and tea. They provide tons of coffee and tea for the players. This is very important to have some energy, to have some drinks during the game, because they are losing a lot of energy and need to grab it back. And besides that, they are investing quite a lot of prizes for the ladies.
Only for the women? The men are not entitled for good coffee?
Men has a sponsor of bigger companies, so they're fine. For instance, there is this, as I know, I don't want to give some inaccurate information, but as what I have observed is, like, for instance, in the Open, they have different sponsor. In the Women, they have different sponsor. So they are sharing the costs and the funds, as I understand.
I mean, finding sponsorship for chess is hard, right? It's definitely difficult. So that's why, again, we really have to appreciate all the good work that FIDE is doing to ensure that the players are, the tournaments of the highest level, they're getting proper support. So again, thanks to Mativa of Establishment Labs, this is a possibility. And the total prize fund, in case you didn't know what we're talking about, is 250,000 euros, right? And for the winner, I think it was 70,000.
70,000, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, which is the winner of the final. The chat goes crazy. Poor man, no coffee. No, guys, there is coffee for everyone, even for the guests, even for the commentators too. And myself, I have a big supply.
So they're sponsoring women, but the men can drink the coffee as well.
How great it sounds.
Yeah, that's really great. Awesome. All right. A4, by the way, is on the board. It makes sense, right? You want to push the pawn somewhere as far as A5, A6 creates some targets. I like that. But you know, Keti, I have a feeling that this position could move at some point to, if black is not very accurate, 4 pawns against 3 pawns at the king side. For example, let me try to imagine some scenario. Let's say, again, B6, A5, something happens. Black is going to play c5, we are going to trade it, white wins this pawn, but the question is this enough? And very often it's not, because 4 pawns against 3 in a rook endgame is considered to be draw. Even that doesn't work.
Considered to be draw, but in practice, if you have, imagine that's the very end of the part, probably after the increment time, Artur. It's still so tricky position, 4 versus 3. White will for sure, the side who has 4 pawns will for sure try to get something out of nothing. And still, I mean, accuracy is important in that position. So even if we say sometimes that it's equal, it's drawish, it's not done there because a lot of factors plays a lot of very important role. And just remember this game, what happened yesterday. Tan Zhongyi was pressing all the time, and then at some point she blundered the queen trade and the tables turned. And then Goryachkina got some of the hopes to even outplay the opponent.
I think she was actually pretty annoyed that she didn't have any real chances to play for the win, because she would love to play that final position yesterday, to play a little for the win. But unfortunately, it was just not meant to be, because she won a pawn in the end, but the position is still dead draw.
Yeah, that's right. So here we have A4. Goryachkina is thinking in this position. Yeah, if you ask her, probably she's not having big of the problems and issues. Pawn structure looks so far fine. There's just white's playing that she wants to undermine. Did she just play C5?
That she did. This is a major decision. If that works, this is immediately equality. If that doesn't work, then she's in trouble. Let's put it simple. I wanted to mention that she has to figure out what to do against A5, because let's say if she does play A5 herself, stop this. Now this pawn, it's a considerable weakness. The same applies for the B6 square. If she wouldn't do that, if she would, let's say, stop it at A6, well, now this knight could get to C5, and after doubling the rooks at the B file, the pawn on B7 is very weak. Right. And then, let's say, if she would allow this pawn to march as far as A6, this again would leave her with a very unpleasant choice, because after taking on A6, these pawns on A7 and C6, they're weaknesses, and after B6, I mean, this is the kind of position you never want to enter, because you never know. Maybe this pawn on A6 in an endgame is going to remind you at the worst possible moment. Right, so let's say imagine the rook endgame, the white rook penetrates the 7th rank, and the pawn on a7 after it drops establishes for white a very strong pass pawn. But we have c5 on the board.
C5 on the board. This is good timing for Alexander Goryachkina. She totally felt the problem what she could face after a5, a6, weaken this queen side. So she says like, okay, we're gonna trade some of the pawns on the queen side, and less pawns, less problems for me. So let's take a look what happens after d takes c5, I think. And there's also d5 we can consider. Let's start with this one. Is she going to take queen?
With queen, can you take it actually?
Yeah.
No, you can't do that. You're losing
Queen
by
E4.
force.
Yeah.
You're losing by force. Yeah, rook d8, queen e4, rook e8, and rook d8, queen e4. You drop a piece. You can't do that.
So that means that either you have to take the rook first and give up the d file, or you have to take with the knight.
That's a very good question. I don't know immediately. Okay, let's try to do this. Let's try to force things here. And now I can take with a queen. Now, queen e4 is not the move, because let me show it to you. Takes. Looks very tempting. Oh, check me the button. No, I mean, white loses. So you can't do that. Be careful. So here after queen c5, this trick queen e4 doesn't work. If that doesn't work, then I guess it's all about the open file. Rook d7, but rook d7 is impossible because after queen c5, knight c5, this knight simply protects it. It's just equal. It's just equal.
Yeah. Black has no worries here. Black will just make sure that there is no problems on the back rank, and it will be just no worries for black. c5 seems so far after first variation that we calculate fine. So what happens d5 if white decides that let's have the pass pawn with this?
It just doesn't feel right. With the current placement of the pieces, with the knight on f4, with the rook on d1, not on e1, this rook somewhere far away, this would lead to quite a double-edged game, but I already feel that black is better. I mean, maybe, I'm overestimating things, but this idea to establish connected two pawns in the center for white is going to be quite tricky for white. And the way she played it out, looking at the body language of Tan Zhongyi, I don't think there's even the slightest chance she's going to push a d5 here. I'm a bit surprised she allowed c5 to be played, to be honest. So we'd have to go back here with this entire sequence of rook ft1. I'm not sure why this was necessary. Why not play rook c1, queen c2, rook c1? Make this choice to play c5 as difficult as possible.
Yeah, rook d1 was indeed very, very interesting idea what white wanted to play. d5 is on the board?
No, it's not. No. I don't think she's going to play d5 because this knight on e4 is positioned perfectly to block this d pawn. So think about something like knight e6, queen c2, b6, a6, b5. So for black, it's a very straightforward game, while white is really struggling to play f3, e4. The pawn is under attack. The knight on f4 is just misplaced against the queen's gaze on f4. So I don't see this happening. White can only get in trouble here. Of course, you could play it out of spite, out of anger, but I don't think that Tan Zhongyi is going to let her emotions fly.
To play d5. I agree with that. Artur, there is this interesting move. Let's take a look. What happens after f3? You attack the knight when knight goes back on f6, let's say, or d6 probably is the worst move here to play, because after queen c5, you probably lose
down a pawn, right?
Yes, and knight f5, you can play always e4.
Right.
So black has to play knight f6 here.
Or knight g3, be aggressive. But okay, let's say knight f6. Okay, let's be conservative.
Yes. So now let's take the pawn on c5. Queen takes, pawn takes. You cannot take on e3 right away. You have to trade first. And now it's safe to take, because after rook to d8, you have this move rook to e8. And seems like your back rank and your 7th rank are well guarded by black's pieces.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's some tricks. I guess there's not, because I was looking at some c6 ideas here, but probably they are not working. Looking at c6, knight e5, but you can't make it work at the same time, right? Because c6, b takes, knight e5, of course you take with the pawn. It doesn't work.
Yeah, and if you start with knight d5, you give up the piece with that, and after c6, so black will not take the pawn.
Of course. So it's not going to happen. So knight f6 looks reasonable. I mean, maybe knight g3 even is a move. After f3, knight g3, be aggressive, put the knight on f5. I could easily see this as a move as well. Although now, look at this. Now you have some issues with rook e3 first, the back rank issues, and also there's a king f2 move attacking two pieces. So not knight g3. You're right, it's knight f6.
Yep. So f3 is the move which looks good, but after some calculation, we can sum up that it's not worth it to go it because after all, after the trades, white's pawn structure is not so tempting to fight for the win. You pointed out knight d5. There was a sneaky move there. Can we take a look what happens?
Yeah, I mean, I noticed this move. Perhaps it could change something. So this knight first go to d5, and only then white takes on c5. Okay, maybe somehow combining f3. So let's check the most obvious move. Something like queen c6, I guess. Now what changes? Oh, wait, there's some fork ideas. Look at that. D takes and knight e7 check. That's an idea.
Nice, nice. If queen takes...
Then I have nothing. That's what it looks like.
Cannot make it work?
No,
it cannot.
I don't see how. Knight e7 is queen e7. So even this move doesn't work. And if that doesn't work, then nothing works. So it's just leading to some equal endgame. Maybe takes, knight c7. Again, black has number of moves.
Saves the game here. Or rook d1, rook c8.
Or rook d1, rook c8, exactly. So actually here white would have to be a bit careful because the pawn in a4 now is a weakness. And it doesn't mean that Goryachkina is immediately, aiming for a draw. No, she's just trading this pawn. And we already discussed this. Where was this? At this point, about here. We discussed this, that black would love to trade this pawn with c5 and c takes on d4. That's why it felt that this choice for white to play knight d3, or was this once again? Here. That was a great move, stopping this idea. And here, knight fd1, takes, rook d8, a4. It was a bit strange that Tanjanki completely neglected this idea for black to play c5. Maybe she thought it's nothing. Maybe she miscalculated something, but now, Goryachkina said, okay, what's your point? I'm going to play c5. You didn't stop me. And the body language of Tanjanki is like, it's not the greatest, really. She's like, oh no. That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. It's not a tragedy, but I think she wanted to stop this threat. For some reason, either she forgot it, and this happens, dear viewers. It just happens from time to time. You simply forgot about certain threats. They're still human beings. They're really wonderful players, the best players in the world, and yet sometimes the hand does another move. You're like, what? Why didn't I include rook c1 first? But there's this so-called saying that you execute the second move first, and then you play the first move. You change the order of the moves. So in your mind, your rook already stands on c1. I was like, what? I didn't play rook c1? How did this happen?
It happens to me so many times. And then after the game, I ask myself, what just happened? And I have no idea. I want to play something else, and my hand goes to the wrong direction. And there's a conflict of the body and the brain, especially when you have some time pressure. And that happens to many, many chess players.
Let's try knight d3, Keti.
Let's do that.
Let's try knight d3 because I think this could be Tanjanki's response. And after b6, I could try to take it, try to create this weakness. Now we get knights off the board, take it, something like queen c5, take it, probably something like rook c8, let's say g6. Oh, wait, I drop a pawn.
In this position, is this pawn on c5 weakness, or I can make it strength? Because take on d1 and rook c8. We have this rook on the back supporting c pawn, and white has to be a bit careful there.
If white makes with the king on c2, then it's a weakness. If white positions the rook passively, then it's a strength. I think it's like that. So it really depends the quality of the moves that we are doing here. Maybe play king f1. And I have a feeling it's going to fizzle out to a draw here. Something like g6. I could maybe... Okay, let me just show one theoretical, one drawish line. Takes, rook e4, something like this. Here, takes, shake hands, etc. So rook c7, rook a7, g4, king g2, shake hands. So this is so classic. But maybe they can somehow find another way to get there. It looks like a draw, to be honest. Again, d takes. Black is not gonna play b takes because the knight on e4 is not as solid.
Hold on, can we not take on c5 first, because this pawn is pinned, right? And we can play something like rook to c1.
Okay, I'm going to play g6. I'll make a window for the king, just in case.
takes. You will take here.
For white, it's very difficult to make a very useful move here. Maybe queen b5 something. But this position, once again, takes, queen c5. It just leads to the same position, right? And yeah,
if you
rook
play rook
d5
d7 and go for the a7 pawn, then black will play rook c8 and...
I think it could be a draw like this. And they reach move 40, shake hands. Because this pawn is not going anywhere. The black king is not going to make it. I don't think Goryachkina wants to give up her entire king side. g5, h4. White also cannot really make a progress. Although it's actually a bit tricky. You could try to advance your king a bit smart. But come on, with the pawn on a3, even if the king side 4 pawns against 3, it's a draw. With the pawn on a4, it should be so much easier for black.
Artur, can we go to this line with... let's say rook c1, b6, knight d3, b6, rook c1. We played g6. So let's take on c5. Knight takes. We trade everything. And to go rook to d7 after a7 weakness.
Oh, that's a good point, actually.
So here the plan is that if you play rook to c8 to strengthen this pawn on c file, I have king f1 and I'm on time, I suppose. And that's what you were talking about. If king gets in front of the c pawn, this is going to be a weakness because now your rook will be busy to guard a pawn and the c pawn. And you will lose one of it.
Right.
So that's the thing. So after rook to d7, what black should respond there?
Where was it? Rook d7. What about a6?
a6.
Rook d6.
Yes.
Oh, this is actually pretty smart.
Is not so good for black, right? You have a little bit loose pawns.
Right. Okay, I mean, maybe black needs to be a little accurate. Although I think in the worst case scenario, Keti, probably black can do something like this. Here, give a check. h5 first. And now to trade off these pawns.
Yeah.
And 4 versus 3. But I don't think that Goryachkina wants to go there, really. Because this is the kind of position where, I mean, white can, of course, press. And there's this nuance having the pawn on h7 and h5. I think we cannot yet mention it because it hasn't happened. But this gives white some possibilities to play for the win. So knight e3 looks incredibly logical here. I think we are going for the same game. And if Goryachkina is going to make 1 or 2 accurate moves, maybe something better that I just showed to you after a very small thing, this game is heading to probably a peaceful outcome.
That's right, Artur. Once I got myself into the game, 4 pawns versus 3, against very strong grandmaster. I played against Goryachkina that position. I thought they say it's a little drawish in books, and I found myself in a huge problem. I had 15 minutes for that situation to handle. I had no weakness. Just my weakness was that I was losing 1 pawn, but it was on the one flank, and I thought it's like, okay, I can make it. And then he created so much of the threads. I lost first the time on the clock, and then in the time trouble, I had to make some very important decisions, and I got lost. I got lost in my lines without time, and also with the fact that it's equal, but you can't handle that position so well, and there's a lot of emotions happening. So even if we say it's drawish, you still need to play the most accurate move, and you still need to handle your time on the clock. It's
absolutely.
Aspect.
Yeah. It does feel it's heading to the result that we discussed, that it could be a peaceful end in the end, because again, yesterday they had a very, very long game, almost 6 hours, and maybe actually slightly less, 5.5.
About 6 hours.
About 6, yeah? Okay, about 6 hours. And after that, I mean, you have a hard time to recover, really. I mean, it's all about recovery, because if you enter such a tournament, you have 1 game, 2nd day, 3rd day, okay, there's a rest day in between, but still you invest all of your energy in the game, right? And you just have to have a very good physical condition. So at the beginning, you feel fine. Second, third, fourth, fifth game, second week, you can be very tired.
It's super tiring, it is. Indeed, and very often chess players are playing some sport or going to gym to do some workouts. Yoga is, I know, part of a lot of chess players' routine. I have seen a lot of players after the game going to the gym and letting the stress go out and preparing for the next game with that, which can be really stress release to go to gym and, I don't know, do some workouts. What I have noticed for this event, Artur, they have so much of the work to do, they don't have time even for like 1 hour to go to gym. That's what, for instance, Muzachuk sisters were saying. They like to go to gym to do some workouts, but at the candidates tournament with this format, what we have, knockout system, they don't have this possibility to use extra 1 hour for something that brings the luxury to.
Well, I don't know. I beg to differ slightly, because I think I notice that when you're extremely busy, it's can you make it work or not? And having a very busy schedule, it's quite critical to insert some things in between, right? So maybe you just force yourself, okay, listen, I have to make it work, right? So maybe spend less time for preparation, going for the gym or doing some relaxation. It's still very important. But if you're not getting used to do that every single day, then it's quite tough. Of course, it's quite tough to force yourself. No, you have to go to the gym in the candidates tournament.
Have muscle pain next day.
Right. I mean, I just say this from some personal experience with some students, and they say, I don't have time. I don't have time, right? And I usually say, I mean, give me your daily schedule, and I'm going to find your time, right? So it's all about, can you force yourself, understand how it's important it's for you, and just make it work, right? But okay, I mean, everybody has, of course, their own schedules, and
their comfort zone during the game.
Of course.
That's right. Like, it works so different way. As a professional chess player, when I used to play, I had a big issue with my coach to explain him that I have a different routine, and I don't like, for instance, to prepare for the game 2-3 hours. If I prepare 3 hours a day before the game, then who will play for me? I need the energy, which I don't have. I don't have that much energy. And for me, 1 hour was the limit to prepare for the game. I could not do more than that. Then I cannot play. And it was always the question, like, no, we have to prepare this and that and so on. So there was always some dramas going on between me and my coach, which I appreciate very much his work. And that's another thing. Yeah, coaches always want to show you something, because then if the opponent plays something else that you have not seen, you can blame the coach for, of course. Who would you blame? Not yourself, but your coach. Then that's why they want to show you everything, to have these ideas, but your personal choice is to rest, in my case. But I have seen players who are preparing with the computer 3 hours before the game every day.
Oh, I've been there. I think my maximal record is 5 hour or 4 hour preparation, and then the game of 5 hours. But it's been a long time ago, and ever since, at least I try to do myself, the best preparation is good rest. So, I mean, not over-focus on the preparation. Look at the ideas, of course, try to prepare as far as you can, but don't overdo it, because you need the strength, you need the freshness to enter the game. But, of course, I've never played in candidates tournament, right? So I have played in some very high-level tournaments, but when you play in tournament like this, I guess it's extremely important that you use every single minute that you have at your disposal. So I totally can understand it.
That's right, Artur. And this game gives us the luxury to talk about these topics, which is very important at this level of the chess. But to remember that, for instance, for the very important tournament that we were preparing, and we had to play somewhere where it was a different time zone. For instance, I can bring one tournament which happened in Vietnam. There was 6 hours of difference, and basically when my brain was starting to work it was already the end of the game because of these hours. Yeah. And for this reason, we came up at the training camp with the same routine as it could be in Vietnam, which means that we were working out in the very late hours. And it was very tough at the trainings because we were like all very sleepy and could not see anything. And then when we arrived in Vietnam, I think it was slightly better conditions for us because like at least our brain was ready to work hard.
I know that for a fact, it's not chess related, it's from ice hockey. But I know for a fact that some teams, when they travel a lot of time zones, they simply don't change the clock. Meaning they're living according to their original clock. They're taking the breakfast, even if it's dinner, etc. They're going to sleep even if it's the middle of the day because it's very difficult to adjust to the time zones, right? Especially when you cross something like 6-7 hours and then you have to like overcome this jet lag. Some people don't even change the routine. I mean, if it's for like one match or two matches. But here, I believe this is not the case, really, because they're playing Uzbekistan, which is ahead from Central European time for, 4 hours, right? They've been there already the second week.
Yeah. And the thing is that both of these players are very close to this time zone and this territory. So for someone from America or someone from Europe, it might be a challenge, but for them, it might not be such a big challenge. And it also as a fact, I know that at this level, these players are arriving at the tournaments not 2 days before, but sometimes 4 or 5 days before to adjust the temperature in the country, to adjust the conditions, food, sleeping routine, and so on. So they are treating this so professionally.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
No moves.
Chat, we have a question. Is there anything better than knight to d5?
93, you mean? Or 95?
Knight d5 is the question, but there is knight d5 and knight d3 moves, yeah. Both possible.
I have a feeling we are going to see knight e3. Hope I'm wrong, because it would lead to mass trades and potentially drawing rook in game. So I think that Tanjuki has already figured it out that knight e3 probably is leading to a draw, and if she wants to be ambitious, she has to do something else. But since she already missed the shot c5, which I don't think was part of the plan, no, I guess she's going to think for a while, and I would still guess play knight e3. Dear viewers, how are you feeling today? Not so much action is happening right now, I guess, right? Because yesterday there was a very, very tense game, but maybe things are still going to change. What do you think?
It can change, like any move can change the situation right now, but itself the position is so peaceful here. We don't have much of the actions, and it goes on the one flank of the board. Tanjongi just played a5 to potentially avoid b6 ideas, or just be prepared after b6 to capture this and to have open a file. But this move is not directly point the center when all the tension is going on, right? So it's just a side pawn move, and now we have this tension in the center with C and D pawns.
It doesn't really change anything, right? So A5 is played, but it doesn't dramatically change the position. And I think that she is relying on some tricks, maybe. For example, maybe G6 now weakens somewhere the F6 square. Maybe that's the point, right? So for example, after G6, I mean, you sort of need to watch out for the fork idea on F6. Let's say Queen C6, D takes, and maybe that's the final trick, you know? Because after if I trade, boom, check, and you down in exchange. But Goryachkina is not going to miss that. She could play H6, give another window for the king, or make some other move here after A5, either H6 or even B6 could be a move.
Rook C8, for instance, can be
Rook C8 could, yeah, by the way, Rook C8 looks perfectly legit. C takes, of course, is not possible. The queen is under attack, so there should be number of choices for black.
Yeah, talking about Rook to C8, in fact, this forces some changes in the center. Otherwise, you can't play Rook A to C1 because A5 pawn will hang. And definitely you don't want to play Rook D to C1, as this Rook is now at the almost open file. So after Rook to D5, we might expect here some kind of d takes d5 or d6, d5 or even knight d5 to happen. Artur, I would suggest now to take a break. Our first break. Because we're receiving moves really low. I don't expect here Alexandra play her next move very fast, so she will take some of her time, which means that by the time we're back, we'll have some more moves to analyze, and also they're gonna have short time on the clock, which is a lot of more fun for our viewers and for ourselves indeed. So now let's take a short break, or break for 10 minutes, and guys, please don't go anywhere, because this match can go somewhere very interesting in the end game. And yeah, see you shortly.
See you soon.
Welcome back, everyone. This is FIDE Women's Candidate Tournament 2022 Pool B Round 2, Game 2 between Tanzhongyi and Alexandra Goryachkina. So far, we have reached 23 moves, and the game just stopped in here for a bit because players are taking their time to figure it out what will be the next, what plan they will choose. And we are going to take you through the game from now on. Here we are, Artur and Keti in the studio.
Yeah, welcome back, of course, everybody. The pace of the game has been a little bit slower, so it's good news for you viewers. Dawn is going for a fight. I think she had a chance and she would be probably justified by her choice to go for some liquidation to a very drawish game. Now, knight d5 here. She is looking for chances.
That's right. Queen is under attack. Queen has to go somewhere safe spot. At this point, queen to c6 to me looks the move that black might consider to play, is knight on d5 will be hanging, and you kind of force white's next moves to take on c5, to move this knight away, or just white has to make their decision. All right, let's take a look what happens after d takes c, queen takes c5. Perhaps
right.
not.
Again, I think very quickly we mentioned that knight c5 is a fork, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay. Knight c7, knight e7, win just exchange. So it's not good. That's why queen c5. Okay.
Yeah. So here at this point, we mentioned that if queen are trade and then white plays knight to c7, before we went to break, we decided that rook takes d1, and rook c8 was okay position here for black, as now knight is under attack. Black's knight on c5 looks very active, and black can potentially start to use this extra pawn on the queen side.
Right. I think you nailed it. I'm not even sure what I could add here. Perhaps the point that after queen c6, is there any other viable alternative? No, but just as we left it, there was a very interesting moment, Keti. I would like to go back. After this a5, I saw there was a mention in the chat. Black could have played b5 immediately. We sort of walked past this point, right? And the big point is after queen b5, knight c3 fork. And unfortunately for white, this is not good because the rook on d1 is simply lost. So after b5, since the threat is c4, this would have forced the trade, and that most likely would have led to probably already quite drawish outcome, because now knight e5 still is a move, of course, but after knight e3, the game most likely will liquidate into something quite drawish. But Goryachkina didn't find it. She played h6, a very human move, avoiding these g6, knight e5 traps on f6, and that's why, the game is still on.
That's right. So they have invested, both of them, about 10 minutes for this game. The time is also equal for them. And they are around 37, 38 minutes. Queen goes on d6. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, well, I think she just saw this line of d takes c5, knight takes c5, and knight e7. So basically, she wants to avoid, with black pieces, knight e7 threats. But it steps on d file where the rook is.
Can it be that she is ambitious here? Wait. Let's have a look back at this line. Why queen belongs on d6? Maybe the point is you enable the possibility to take with the knight.
Yeah, that's right. And knight e7 is not on the board anymore. We have, in fact, d takes c on the board. And
most likely,
yeah.
I'm sorry. No. I'm sorry. You started it.
So most likely there's two moves. Yeah, here queen c5 and knight c5. Both are possible, but I think as the queen is on d6, she will take with knight.
I find it very difficult to believe that here black could be ambitious. Although I think that after knight c5, the spin is still there. And I have a hard time to imagine that black will be able to organize a strong pass pawn on the queen side. The knight on d5 is pretty strong. There's something like rook d4. I can only guess, Keti. I can only guess there was something that she didn't quite like after Queen C6. But what is it? I mean, I'm not sure. Because D takes, Queen C5, maybe there was some kind of a move here. I don't think there's a move.
I only can see Queen to B3 to keep these pieces on the board, to attack the bishop, pawn on pawn on B7, and then to play some kind of move like rook to C1, but it drops the pawn on A5. So basically, I don't really see here anything too difficult for black.
And the answer is on the board. Knight C5 is played. I guess Goryachkina decided that keeping the queens on the board is a safer choice. Whatever is the reasoning, I think Queen C5 was looking perfectly fine. Maybe there's some tactics. Well, I don't see what it was, but...
Is this really because I see still the pawn on C5?
Oh,
Maybe
she didn't play that.
average.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
that's my imagination. No, that's my imagination, right?
But very likely she will go knight C5 here, actually, Artur. And
I don't know.
pin the knight on D5.
I don't know. That would make sense. Why position the queen on D6? But again, maybe let's go look at this a bit closer. So Queen C5. So you're saying Queen B3. And this pawn needs to be protected. Queen C6 still is a fork threat on E7.
Rook D7 is, I believe, not the greatest.
You need to watch out for some fork ideas.
Yes.
Not fork, but discover check, yeah. F3, knight E6, E4. Yeah, this is the kind of position you don't really want to enter. Oh, I can't play E4, that's a pin, okay.
Rook somewhere first, Rook C1 first.
My bad. All
We
right.
almost dropped the queen. Rook to C1 and queen can go on B5, so we almost dropped the queen here.
Would be a
And
lovely
A5
idea.
pawn is hanging.
Yeah, this would be a lovely idea, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. The pawn on A5 is hanging. You're right. So Rook C1, Queen A5. Looks a bit shaky for black, but then again, this knight on D6 is still covering everything. There's no immediate way to crash through. Maybe this is still fine.
Yeah.
So Goryachkina is choosing. Maybe this is what she doesn't quite like. Because how do you protect this pawn? Just ask a simple question. How do you protect it? I mean, Rook D7 is shaky. Maybe it's a playable move. Knight E6 looks a bit passive. Maybe,
Yeah, that's a valid question.
Rook E5 is knight F6. No, doesn't work as well. Yeah, maybe that's the point, right? Maybe that's the entire point. That the pawn on B7 suddenly is quite difficult to protect. And that's why she did play Queen D6. With probably the intention to take with a knight. But now that it's on the board, she's thinking, can she still do it? Because if the queens are off the board, then it's much, much easier for Goryachkina. Okay, she's not ambitious. Okay, I take that back. I think she's simply trying to make sure there's no problems after Queen B3.
She was about to make a move, but perhaps she's not very sure, so decided to take extra minutes to think here. Two ways to capture back the C5 pawn. Needs still some calculation. Maybe it's not big advantage after all. She decided knight to take on C5.
So she wasn't sure. Okay, so she takes with a knight. She wasn't sure, I guess, how to meet Queen B3. Knight C5 keeps all the options on the board. The Queen on D6 is still very good controlling this knight. Knight B6 is not a move because the Queen on D1 is under attack. I mean, taking two rooks. White has some small pressure, but it's so little. It's so little. This one pawn holds together these two pawns. The knight on D5 is beautiful. And that's it.
Yeah, and that's it.
And that's it. There's nothing else.
Can we do, Artur, here F3, E4 ideas?
Yeah, I think you can.
To maintain the knight on D5. This knight creates a lot of threats and jumps and winning the exchanges. So if F3, E4 works well for white, why not to go for it?
I have difficulties to understand where to position the queen. Because again, Queen C6 is knight E7 check. The queen is sort of pinned to protect the knight. Knight f6 drops the queen, knight f6 check.
Okay, yeah.
So you still need to be quite accurate. Maybe it's something like, rook e5, you play e4, so f3 is actually a great move. I like that. You also protect the knight against possible ways for black to try to get rid of it.
Yeah, and then you can play rook c1 to attack the knight. When knight leaves, then b7 pawn will be a target. Queen c7 can happen, most like that.
And if I play rook c8?
e8, that's tricky. You want to play knight e4 if I play e4.
I just want to defend the knight, really. Go away from any fork threats on e7 so that the rook on d8 is not hanging. I protect the knight, relieve the queen.
Yeah, I like here queen b4 move for white because it kind of creates pin on the queen, and also like you cannot freely move your knight away as b7 pawn will hang. And next move, now I really want to play e4. In fact, there is not knight e4 anymore because knight d5 guards the queen on b4, so I'm not afraid of any kind of tricks.
That's really nice. Okay, so white has some practical chances still here, right? The knight on d5 is extremely annoying, and even if there's no immediate threats, and I do believe that black's position is perfectly fine, Tanjanki has managed to find a way to create some problems, so I can't help but feel it was quite critical to take with the queen here and figure out what to do after queen b3, but Goryachkina just didn't find it.
Oh, hold on. There is actually a very interesting situation, Artur, in this last variation, knight c5 that we showed.
You mean here?
Yeah, knight c5, f3, and rook c8. There is another fork here, knight b6. Fork.
Nicely spotted.
Yeah, winning.
Yeah, I forgot we don't have the pressure against rook on d1, the double pressure. You're right. Okay, f3. I like this move. Okay, no rook c8, no knight e6. It's a bit difficult to come up with a move, you know?
Yeah, knight d7 is not even anything here. It's a very passive move, but it also drops knight c7 and exchange. You are running out some of the moves. Not so easy to decision.
Yeah, okay, what if I play knight e7? I try to kill this knight with knight f6.
Knight c7, that's what I just said. Knight c7 here.
I found another way to blunder. Okay, great. Okay, rook d4 is played.
Yeah, rook d4 is a very interesting move. So basically you still want to play e4, do you?
Or double the rooks.
Double the rooks is for sure happening here, but e4, knight e4, rook e4. Yeah, no, e4 is not possible. E4 is not possible.
So white simply, again, relieves the knight on d5 from any pressure, so that there is, again, now potential retreats with the knight, and not immediately. Knight b6 is not even creating any threats. Knight e7, knight f6 is not possible. But now that the rook on d1 is protected on d4, this gives white more options, like knight c3, knight b5.
I love this move. I love rook d4
It's a great
very
move.
much.
It's a great move, yeah.
You know, your rook is well guarded on d4. You want to double your rooks. And then this knight of b6 ideas, knight c3, knight b5 ideas create so much sense to white. I don't know if the ideas, something like rook d1, queen c3, rook g4 will create anything, but you know, you can look for some small ideas like that to undermine the weakness on g7, if that's even possible. But just the fact that you are already creating some of the threats with rook d1 with such a peaceful moves, you know, ask some question how well here Goryachkina stands.
Well, it comes down to this. What kind of move black is going to do? How is she going to get rid of the knight from d7? So once again, knight e7 drops the exchange. You can't do that.
Right.
Knight e6 drops the queen. You can't do that. Maybe you need to remove the king from the check to play knight e6. I mean, but still, this knight annoys me greatly if I'm playing with black. Maybe
Yeah, where the king goes, though.
maybe knight e4. I don't know, an h8 maybe, but then the pawn on f7 is indirectly under attack. Indirectly.
Yeah, and also we're going towards the end game, and this kind of moves I don't like so much. Every time I played king to h8, it really ended badly for me, and try not to play that often, this move. In this position, 94 can...
This was the idea. Of course, it's very obvious, right?
Yeah. Can we play knight b6 instead?
That's a good point. And I'm going to position the queen somewhere.
Yeah, Artur, sorry, there's knight c7 here. There's knight c7.
I think I blundered again the same idea for like how many times? So rook d4, knight e4, knight c7. I'm pretty sure I already blundered a couple of times. Okay, knight c7 again. Here you go. You can't do that. I don't like this for Goryachkina. I don't see an easy plan to get rid of this knight from d5, and white's pieces here, they're very nicely, centered, and the pawn on a5 limits black's b6, by the way. The knight on c5 is feeling a bit shaky.
Artur, can we do b5 still here? Like, the idea is if you take with queen b5, I want to play rook to b8, attack the queen, and I'm threatening knight b3.
Wow. Is that working?
I don't know.
There could be knight b6, with whatever happens after that.
Very least, I see knight f6 move, which goes to the endgame of the queens and the rooks, where I have extra pawn.
That's a good point. Yeah, knight f6 is strong.
And
Right.
after rook b2, you can play rook to f4 or rook to f1 very least.
Now that's indeed strong. So I think b5 opportunity is gone. There was a suggestion in the chat, rook e4. Yeah, maybe not knight e4, but rook e4. How about this?
Okay. I like that.
That
There's
does
no
make
knight
sense.
c7 at least, yeah?
No,
That's-
at least no. I did not manage to blunder this time. Okay, what if I play here? I sort of improve the idea. So we get rid of the rooks. I guess you have to get rid of it. And now the problems remain. And now this rook is even less defended than before. And there's threat of knight c3, winning the knight on c5.
Yeah.
Not obvious. I mean, it's like when you're playing with black as Goryachkina, you need to come up with a sequence of moves. It's just not enough to find rook e4. You need to show what you have next. And here, what is the next move? Again, knight e6 drops knight f6. What is the next move?
Queen to f8 to have some peaceful position. But here's knight f6, very ugly move to double the pawns. And I don't know what's happening in the queen endgame.
Probably drawish. Probably. No, I guess black is okay. King g7, you have an outside pass pawn. Black is not going to lose. But what if instead of knight f6, there's something else? Look at my pieces here. They're so strong, so centered.
I like rook g4 still very much. But if it's not a checkmate, that we are not getting too much out of this.
It's a very nice check though, right?
Yeah.
So also for Goryachkina, I think if she would have to go here, she'd be like, ugh, right? How did I play so passively? Queen on f8, rook on d8. Okay, then knight on c5. And my gut instinct would say, don't go there, right? There's some danger. White could even consider continue playing something like knight c3, knight b5. And if you trade it, create a passed pawn, the game is on. The game is still on. It continues. This is not equality. So Goryachkina will have to go back again to this moment when she was a bit slow with this h6. This was a bit slow. I guess this b5 was eliminating the white pawn on a5 and immediately liquidating into something else, because now you compare this position, she doesn't have to worry about the pawn on a5.
Yeah.
Opportunity missed. So Goryachkina was very close to equalize. Zhanki has managed to create some problems. So it's a very deep think for black. White looks better, yeah.
27 minutes for 25 moves. So far, we don't see any pressure on the time. But if problems are not eliminated here from Goryachkina, she can have some time problems for rest of the 15 moves. As we have seen, some of the threats are still remaining on the board, which means that she has to be alerted with all these traps that white creates. And she goes rook to e4. Rook to e4.
So there needs to be a sequence of moves. Maybe it's actually going to be what you suggested, Keti. Rook d1, take it, and just out of, I mean, okay, maybe not queen f8, but what? Maybe this is what she wants to do, right? Queen f8.
Yeah.
But if you don't play queen f8, what is it?
I don't know, to be honest here.
Rook c8 loses, now b6. The threat is knight c3, win the knight. b6, this is losing a pawn. Although maybe the endgame is trying, maybe it's not. You don't want to enter this endgame, definitely.
Maybe it's fine, Artur. Maybe it's fine. Queen endgame here. Like how black will create the white will create the weaknesses.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna argue if it's drawing or not, Keti, but would you enter this with black? That's the question.
If I have a choice to enter here with queen endgame or with rook endgame, I think I will choose over rook and I will choose queen endgame. How about you with black?
I would just not go here at all because I don't know. I mean, I don't know because this is a practical position. You can play it on. And if I have a chance to avoid this endgame, I don't go there at all. So of course I see it as a possibility, but can you like put your hand on the heart and say this is totally a draw?
No, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. However, this might be a bit safer because queen is a very tricky piece. You can push your pawns forwards to create the weaknesses with white because there will be some checks. And of course, there is not the pass pawn so far. I have an idea. How about rook d1, rook d4, rook d4, and still this idea of b5?
That is the same, no? The same stuff. Takes, knight b6.
Okay.
It's the same as b6. But your idea was that after queen b5, you want to... Oh!
Rook B. Yeah. To go on.
Nice.
And you see h2 square is controlled, right? So if you play queen f1...
Yeah, okay, let me show queen f1.
This is, I think, a bit passive. And here you can try to play some move like knight b3. Possible?
Winning the pawn, right? Yeah, but I think even this tactically, unfortunately, doesn't work. There's knight f6. Yeah, so... You showed me this idea online, Keti. It's not even my move, it's your move. I'm using your moves against your ideas.
Wait. There's in the end queen f2. So you take f6, queen c5, rook b1.
No, I take it here.
I didn't say that.
But I'm using your ideas, right? It's not even my idea. You said it. Oh, wait, g takes an f6. Oh, there's g takes an f6.
Damn, there are so many moves.
We have such a smart chat here. Just correcting me. Okay, I never said that.
Or he is a grandmaster.
let's move on. That's a blunder from me. Okay, g takes on f6. Yeah, nice. So what you're saying, again, rook d1, takes, b5. Okay, then I'm going back to the original idea. I'm simply going to take it and play knight b6. How about that? Not queen b5.
Fine for black.
I would definitely play this with white. Absolutely. I will play it forever. But again, is there another choice, Keti? Is there something else? So any king move, I guess, loses to knight c3. No.
The thing is, Artur, what I think, if you go to that queen endgame with black pieces, you are admitting that you have wrong position here, you have weak position here, and you are okay to go in the endgame without a pawn. That's kind of psychological game maybe Goryachkina doesn't want to play. And if she has something else, she has to go to something else, because for white, that endgame is a risk-free. White will not lose that endgame for sure. It's going to be 2 results. And yeah, after all, there is a big big psychological fight here.
Absolutely. So both players don't want to back down. Also, I had a feeling that after the opening, Tanjanki too easily allowed to play the c5 from a black, and you could see from the body language that she was considering that, okay, maybe a draw is a way to continue. She is now continue to fight on, and after this maiden accuracy from Goryachkina h6, she has some chances. And I'm just trying to figure out what's the next move. Maybe you're right, Keti. Maybe it's Queen f8 that you suggested. And this queen endgame doesn't now win a pawn for black. But still, I have a difficult time to imagine that Goryachkina is going to be happy to enter this endgame. Again, I think we are suggesting like knight c3, but even maybe you can just keep it playing, like whatever, queen b5, I don't know. These are passive pieces. The knight is stuck defending the pawn. Even if there's no threats, I don't see any threats, do you? I don't see any threats, but just make a move. I mean...
Yeah, you know what I was thinking? How about queen to b4?
Oh, queen b4, okay.
And by the way, we have the traits, and we will get this position. So now, if you play knight e6, if you play knight queen
Here.
f8, queen b4, knight e6, I have this extra check on e7 if that works. So knight e7, king goes on h somewhere. Let's
On
say h7 to be safe.
Yeah.
And now I'm taking on d8.
What
And
if I'm... Yeah, okay, I'm going to allow you to carry your idea. I just have an idea there. Okay.
Yeah, if you take with the queen, I take b7 pawn, and we never know if it's a draw or not, because I can play queen knight c6 next move and go after e7 pawn. And if you take with a knight... no.
Wait. There's some
Yes.
ideas here.
Yeah?
Or even knight c6 attacking these two pawns.
Queen e1.
Queen e1, queen f2.
Queen F2,
Nice find. That's very strong. Okay, and what if I play queen b8?
Queen d8 is the problem, I think, here.
But you know, Keti, I want to improve this line. It's a great line. But I saw here, after knight e6, knight e7, king h, I saw this very annoying check on b1. Maybe this could change something. I'm pushing your king away, or g6 could be a weakness. So, for example,
Okay,
here...
that makes sense.
Yeah, let's say in this line, you cannot really take on a5 because now that's... Oh, wait, it's still not a mate. Still not a mate, but at least it's something.
Well, with the knights on the board, this is still game on.
It's a game on. You're right. Yeah, it's definitely game on. With the queens, well, nobody knows really. I guess.
And we agree with the queens. It's a
Josh.
true result only. Black is not fighting there for a win at all.
No, absolutely not. Right. So here, queen f8 is on the board. It is played.
Wow.
So Goryachkina just didn't find anything else. I don't think she's very happy with this position. But you know, maybe I'm wrong. After watching yesterday's interview, she said he had no major problems yesterday against Don pushing Black, almost having a winning position. I wonder what she would have to say about this position.
Well, like from my perspective, I think she had more worries yesterday than today, and today is obviously not so bad for her. Like,
Right.
yeah, how she's evaluating the situations. This position should not be that worse than yesterday's.
There are chances for White. You know, right after the opening, it was looking to going in a peaceful way. Now, I'm not convinced.
Oh, and what about just d4 move here? Just to maintain knight on d5 and switch the game to the queen side.
So you don't want to play your queen b4. I think queen b4 was your initial suggestion. But e4 also makes sense. You secure the knight, move some pawns, maybe a 4 or 5.
And if you play knight e6, I will play rook to d3 to avoid any queen activity with queen a3 or whatsoever. And also some moves like rook g3 is, you know, alternative rook b3 is out there.
And you can't play rook c8. Yeah, there's always this trick. So you need to be tactically alert, not to blunder this.
True.
Okay, I like that actually. You said e4. Maybe actually it's better than queen b4 because what was it? After queen b4, there's still no real threats, right? So you kind of pinning the black's pieces, but there's still no threat.
Right.
e4, it's at least something. Securing the knight, claiming the center, gaining more space.
Keeps
And
more pieces on the board, yeah? You don't have the trades that fast.
Right. So again, black should try to trade pieces, queens and rooks, and hope not to blunder anything in the process. But how do you do it? I mean, let's say knight e6, rook d3. You can't play queen c5. You can't do that. It just drops the rook on d8. Okay, maybe improve the idea of queen c5. But rook c8 drops the rook. You can't do that. King h8? Maybe that's the idea.
Yeah, that can be an idea, but now I can play queen to b5. Attacking the pawn on b7 right away. Rook c8 will not be that big of issue now as queen is not there. And black's queen, look at black's queen, it's so limited. It doesn't have more than 3 squares so far. If
I still try to go for a counterattack here, does it work?
Can be.
I mean, maybe black can try to get out of this with a very aggressive play.
Rook g3.
And queen f2.
Takes f2.
Yeah, and black is okay.
Everything. Yeah, yeah. Oh,
I
this
guess.
is nice. Knight f4 is a nice idea.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's one way to play because after this very nice sequence, e4, knight e6, rook d3, I love this sequence really, Keti. There's some serious pressure. f4, f5, f6 even is an idea, and king h8, you just remove the king from any checks, make sure, queen b5, logical move. Maybe instead of queen b5, there's even something more. Could be rook c3, you know, you stop any queen c5, knight c5, you stop rook c8, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense.
Now this is unpleasant. So there's no easy way for Goryachkina to liquidate, to a draw. There's no easy way. I mean, white is better. She knows that. White is better. The knight on d5 clearly dominates the position against the black knight. The pawn on a5 stops these 2 pawns. And at the end of the day, she might have to make a choice to enter this endgame 4 pawns against 3 on the king side, either the queens or the rooks. She might have to do it.
I agree with that. Tanjongi is taking some of her time. She has here at least 3 candidate moves that looks very nice for her. So she needs a little bit more time to invest here, and makes a lot of sense that she's taking the time, because if not this moment, now, then the position will be just fine if Goryachkina manages to trade at least knight on the rook without losing any pawn. It will be just a fine situation.
Yeah.
So if 4 is the move, queen b5 is the move, queen b4 is the move, very least what we can see. There can be also knight. Oh, knight c3 is something that we were talking about, Artur. Let's take a look what happens if the pawn structure is changed.
Right. So the idea would be to take on d4 with the pawn. Yeah, this is what I see. I saw also. And after rook d4, e takes on d4. Again, is black even obliged to take? Yeah, okay. We can debate about it, but let's say, for the sake of the argument, we are entering this position. I guess white has chances, right? To promote this pawn
as a pass pawn.
Yeah, that's a very strong pawn. But you know, I'm slightly conflicted, Keti. I see the idea knight c3, but I ask myself, why do I remove the knight from d5? Because the knight on d5 is so good. I mean, why allow this? Why not make black suffer for the trade, right? And that's what probably would talk me out of playing knight c3, but it is a very logical move. Maybe black simply avoids the trade and plays rook c8.
Create some threats, knight a6 next move, for instance. Yeah. The problem for in chess is that the opponent very often has a lot of resources, and it's not only moves to be played. as you would say, it's not checkers. They have some of the opportunities here and a lot of resources, even in the end games where less of the pieces on the board. So I wonder how long Tanjongi is taking here for this move to play.
I think she might go e4. But then again, e4 removes the option to recapture on d4 at some point with the pawn. So most likely she suspects this is a critical position where she needs to come up with a series of moves. Knight c3, I don't see this happening because, again, black is not obliged to take. And yeah, she plays e4. You called it, Keti.
Yeah, e4, centralizing the knight on d5, potentially starting some kind of pawn march on the king side. And then when the knight is on d5 is guarded, you can also free your queen and the rook to go on the king side, maybe with the third rank, on the third rank, or on the queen side to challenge black with b7 pawn. So black has to make here some decision, and in some of the lines we were considering that king goes on h8 might be the move here to get rid of all kind of threats that white is creating, although in that position Artur f7 pawn might be hanging in very deep endgames.
Yeah, let's check this once again. Knight e6 looks very logical because it's barely keeping together. I mean, black is barely holding it together with queen protecting from f8. So this makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. Knight e6, you said rook d3, rook c8 is a mistake, queen c5 is a mistake. So I guess the problem is the king, so you play king h8. And now, there was this line, queen b5, queen c5, which we sort of calculated. But can we, again, make sure if it's working? Maybe rook b3, what about this move? I'm controlling one open file and semi-open file. Knight e6, by the way, is played. So there's a good chance where you might see something like this.
Yeah, it's a good chance. So what happens if knight goes on c5, attacks the rook and the pawn on b7?
I could go here.
Yeah, and rook to c8 now.
Again, I can't get rid of this knight from c5, can I?
That's hard task, for sure. At least when it's not pinned. Yeah, if the rook is on c3, maybe you can think of some variations, but now, no.
Okay, so what was it? King h8? The other idea we had was queen b5, and this actually makes perfect sense. Because this removes rook d7. There's no queen e7.
But there's queen c5, a tricky move.
But we have to check this because it's a very, very tricky line. Take? I guess we take, right?
Yeah. What happens after knight a4 and rook to d1?
Rook d1. And if I give you a check, you have to go here. Otherwise, the pawn f2 is lost.
Right.
I play here. I'm not sure. There's some discover checks, double check ideas.
Yeah, this might get ugly here for white with the king on f1.
So risky. Oh my goodness, there's this idea. Among of all other choices, yeah?
Oh, nice. Nice checkmate.
Yeah. So, okay, white also needs to be a bit careful.
Yeah.
So what was it? King h8, queen b5, queen c5, queen b7, knight f4. Okay, what if... Okay, let's continue this line. So I guess rook c3 is impossible. There's a fork. If I... Is this line actually so clear? Check. Here. Take. The rook is under attack. Rook g3. Take. And here. Maybe this is a playable line because the pawn on f7 is still under attack, although it does feel drawish.
Black can play here something like queen to c5 or d4.
Yeah, I don't know which one. Okay, queen d4.
Queen e5.
Yeah, it should be a draw. Should be. I mean, I'm saying should, but I'm not sure. Let's say here.
No, queen e5, queen e5.
What?
Queen e5.
Take this pawn immediately. Nice. Okay, and after rook g3? Rook d3.
Can we now pin the rook?
I'm gonna trade the queens.
Okay. That is
But
fine.
even this
You
is a
take the
draw.
queens and rook d5, yeah.
You're right. Yeah. So yeah, it does look quite drawish, and this defense is very accurate. Actually, while we were talking about this, king h8 was played, so it makes sense for black to remove the king, and rook c3 has been chosen. This was the move we briefly looked at, stopping queen c5, stopping rook c8.
Gives white some chances maybe to improve position slowly, like, I don't know, h4, g3 or f4, f5. And another thing is like what black really does here if you don't have the moves to be played so easy. If I just go like moves g3, h4.
Good point. Why actually g3? Why not play f4, f5 immediately?
Because I'm afraid.
Of what? Okay, I get the point. I mean, strengthen the pawn on f4.
Yeah. Like,
It's a great move. I like this.
I like rook c3 very much. Let's see what rook c3 is, right? Rook c3
Yep.
is on the board. Rook c3, and then we go queen to d6.
Of course, black needs to bring the queen in the game, and there you go, Keti. We might actually see your g3 suggestion, because black takes control of the f4 square, and g3 would re-enable it, and maybe try to limit the knight on e6 with something like g3, h4, secure a better shelter for the white king, and then slowly and carefully and methodically push it. But there's another threat. You need to watch out for f5 as well.
Okay.
Or maybe knight g5, knight e4 threat.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense, actually, those moves.
Like this. Yeah. Yeah, and it's still a draw. It's still a draw, of course. So nothing changes. Oh wait, it's not a draw. I'm not in time to take both pawns. My bad. Okay.
It can be a draw, right? After rook b7, theoretical position.
Yeah, but now black is pressing.
Yeah.
No, I hallucinate. I'm gonna take both pawns at the same time, but I can't do it
At once.
at once. But I can't do it.
Some karate move. Okay, so that makes, if we play g3 now, knight g5 in fact is a double attack on h3 and e4.
Right, and also on top of that, with the queen on d6, there's also queen e5 idea at some point. Black wants to centralize her queen. And maybe Goryachkina just found the perfect setup. Because I really like this knight on d5, I like that white is dominating black's pieces, but in the end, there's no obvious weaknesses for black. And if black is accurate, most likely for white, it's going to be incredibly difficult to try to capitalize on this. So you need to cap a next move. So once again, it's either g3 or something else. But what is this?
Not g3. Maybe h4 first. She goes rook b3, I guess.
Okay, rook b3 is played. Targeting the pawn. There's some tricks with rook d7, queen c8. As far as I can see. You need to calculate that carefully.
Is there queen to c5 here anyways?
Queen e5. Queen c5. Queen c5.
Queen c5, yeah.
Queen c5.
So the point, Arturs, is like if we trade the queens, knight comes on c5, and now rook and pawn on e4 are hanging, and even if you find a way to guard both of them, like rook to b4, you have knight e4 in that position, and your knight on d5 is hanging.
But oh wait, this is also a draw, right? Is it? No, it's not a draw. How many times am I going to miss it? I can't take the 2 pawns at the same time. Yeah, I mean, f6 or something. It's still a game.
Yeah. So
Queen c5.
things can change, and black can starts to take over the game if white blunders this pawn on e4, right?
Like we already saw in this game of Tan Zhangyi against Katerina Lagno, right? Game 3? Classical? Was it game 3? Where Tan Zhangyi had this very nice advantage after the opening, and she played rook c7 to blunder the knight c5, bishop d6 ideas.
It was round 2, I think.
Round 2, okay.
Yeah,
I don't
round
remember.
2, when Tan Zhangyi had a great chance in the end, in the opening, after move 12 or 13 to get some advantage, and then in the end they ended up in a rook end game with extra pawn, and I think that position was winning for Lagno. That rook end game probably was winning, but it did not create any problems for Tan Zhangyi, and it was rather ending fast. But here, Queen c5 is the move, which looks very tempting to black.
It looks incredibly logical. On top of all the things, this looks like very strong.
How about knight c5? How about knight c5 to attack the pawn and the rook at the same time?
So go for the same idea. And now I have rook b5. So the rook on b5 defends the knight on d5, so there's no knight e4.
Yeah, good.
Unless you are going for some cheap tricks. But actually, it's a move, right?
It is.
Wait.
It is. Rook is kind of trapped.
Wait, this is pretty weird. I thought I'm going to jokingly mention it, but it's actually working. Rook b5, knight e4, queen e4, a6. It's pretty forcing.
Yeah. And there is not this queen takes d5 and rook b6 because you are dropping the a5 pawn first.
Yeah, but I take on f7 and then we shake hands. Again. Yeah, it's a draw.
Now it worked out. The position you wanted to have.
That's pretty forcing, is it? Once again, knight c5.
Rook b5 and take on a4. Yeah.
You have to do it, otherwise knight e4. Rook b5, very cute shot, knight e4, queen e4, a6. Is there something else after knight e4? No. Rook b7, you take on d5. No, you take it, a6. The rook cannot go anywhere. This is really odd. I don't think I've seen such an idea, to be honest. But
yeah.
And now, yeah, that's fizzling out to a draw. All right. So here, Goryachkina, it appears to be has already a forced way to make a draw. Because rook e3, rook f3, any move is knight e4. I don't think there's anything else here. Maybe she's choosing between queen c5. Maybe she's not even seeing the idea of sacrificing the knight. Because you know how a mind works, Keti. You know that, of course. That it's very easy to stop here. Oh, rook b5, I can't do that because now the knight on d5 is defended,
You
right?
don't look most like a6.
You just don't look further. You stop here. You stop here.
Unless it's a puzzle and you know that you have to solve it and there is some solution. Unless that's the situation.
Imagine somebody comes to Alexandra, says, Alexandra, there's a very cute way. How can you force a draw? Very cute way. She's like, huh? Thank you for the idea, right? Oh, I got it, right? But you don't have this information. Nobody is there. The coach cannot tell to Alexandra, listen, Alexandra, you have to work on this position. I have to find this very cute idea to force the draw. So you can miss it.
I had a sad situation like that. I was playing one of the tournaments. I will not go into details, but I was playing the tournament and my opponent was having very, very bad endgame, but it's still you need to have some technique to improve that you're winning. And then my opponent's coach and another participant from the same country started to talk on the board next to us, something on their language. But chess is such a universal language. You can understand that they're talking about chess. So in the middle of the game, they were starting to talk and I could hear it. I don't know that language for sure, but I understand when they are saying knight c5 because you understand see, you understand some numbers as well. It's not so hard to understand that they're talking about the chess. And this is a bit ridiculous situation, right? It's not polite at all to take advantage of the fact that arbiter is nowhere close to control the situation. And myself, I was struggling on the clock, and I thought like I can beat anyway, the position is winning. But turns out that it's always better to play against one opponent rather than three opponents who are talking. So It did not end it well for me. And meanwhile, knight to c5 has happened.
Goryachkina sees the idea. I think she sees the idea. There's no way she would play knight c5, rook b5, and now start to play something passive as rook c8, pinning the knight. There was a mention in the chat that maybe she had a chance to play queen c5 to be aggressive, but with such a strong knight on d5, I don't really believe that black is entitled to hope for more, because the pawn on e4, knight on d5 give a very strong impression. And now the big question is, how quickly is Goryachkina going to execute very cute looking knight e4 with idea to play a6?
I like that. And for sure they are going to that direction, because black will not play here rook to c8. This is a passive move. It pins the knight on c file. And can be some moves like e5 to be played to attack the queen, and then queen has to go back on f8. Very passive move. And once again, we have similar position where black has pushed the pieces forward on the fifth rank. So very likely she sees this a6 move, and why not to go to the position like that and just enjoy the game. This is so beautiful. Imagine you play this game and you find out that there is a6 in the end, and this gives so much satisfaction.
I mean, that's why you also have to solve puzzles, be tactically alert, because not always puzzles are leading to the winning combination. So knight e4 is on the board, of course. She does see that this game is heading to a draw, dear viewers. There's no more excitement. Sorry about that. So Goryachkina has worked it out. It's just a perfect draw, right? Anish would be proud.
Yeah, in the YouTube chat, there is this thought. I think Keti should have stopped the clock and appealed to the arbiter. That's true, guys. Whenever you see something incorrect is happening, just stop the clock. Don't play that you are so good that you can handle whatever stressful situation or unfair situation. There's always the need of arbiter in that cases.
Yeah.
So yeah, whatever challenge you have, it's always good to call for the arbiter and just stop the clock. Do you have all the right to stop the clock when you have to?
Yeah, this is one thing I've noticed, Keti, that many players, they're afraid to call the arbiters. For some reason, they're shy. They're afraid. They are afraid to stop the clock, call the arbiter, like scream. You know, I've done it so many times. I play some accelerated time control tournament like Blitz. Your opponent is trying to to flag you. You just stop the clock. Arbiter! You scream at the entire call. Where's the arbiter? And then the arbiter comes. Of course, these are your rights. The arbiter is there for a reason, to help you. To make sure the rules are abided.
Yeah. But it brings, like, you're having this kind of experience after some years, and also it's very big challenge to control your anger when you're playing, and when you feel like someone is misbehaving and someone is not respecting you. And then suddenly you are not thinking what is the legal way to deal. You are just getting very upset with the situation. Sometimes you are trying to interrupt by yourself, just telling that be quiet or shush or something. I did not say anything, but I have seen many players when they get distracted by the talk, they are just telling others to shh. And
right.
Yeah, to control. To have the situation when it's comfortable to play.
Okay, can we try to complicate the game here? I found one more move. You would not believe it. After Queen e4, I can still play this. I'm trying to be ambitious.
You want us to have a longer day today?
Yeah. Maybe this is a move. Queen e4, by the way, is played. I'm pretty sure a6 is going to follow. But queen c6, how do you defend? Okay, I mean, there's at least knight c3.
Queen e7.
Queen e7, I play rook d5.
And rook b7.
Oh. Very good point. Okay, discard this. I mean, queen c6 is a move, but I don't think it's going to happen. You're right. You're right. Very, very strong play.
Is fancy enough to be played.
But this could happen sometimes when also from the white's perspective, you're thinking, okay, I'm ready for the draw. Yeah, let's do this. And your opponent plays something like queen c6. Imagine he can be also ambitious and play for more. But no, I don't think here. So Goryachkina is just double checking. She already knows she's going to play 6.
And Zhongyi also sees this move. So there will not be a surprise here with that. A6 is the move to be played, to attack the rook, to undermine the knight on d5. This, for the moment, is extra piece, but this piece was sacrificed for a pawn. And in that endgame, Artur, if we go rook endgame with extra pawn on a file, it is such a dead draw.
Yeah, I should play knight h6. Yeah, I mean, it's a move. What is this? So it's a mate threat. I did love the idea. And after queen f6, rook b7, the game continues. But I think the game is so equalish here. I mean, actually, wait, you have some background issues. But no, I don't think the game is gonna take here. Yeah. Queen f2, rook b8, nice idea. For style points, absolutely, knight f6 would be really cool move here. So,
do you think Zhongyi will play?
I don't know. I just love the move. I mean, there's no risk, I guess, but you ask yourself honestly the question, are you really playing here for the win? I don't think so. There's still, by the way, queen a1 check. Yeah. And take it, and what essentially changes? Nothing. But okay, for some laughs, of course, you can include knight f6, just to have some fun.
Interesting. Let's see what is... if she goes knight f6, it means that she's in a fighting move. If she takes on b7, she's okay to make a draw.
She already made up her mind.
It was such a long day yesterday. They played almost 6 hours, and all those hours were very tense. So to make here a draw for them, I think it's just fine.
The game is finishing in a couple of minutes, the viewers. They're going to reach move 40 very quickly. This is a theoretical draw. Black's pawn on a5 doesn't mean anything. Even with 3 pawns against 2 at the king side, it's a draw where white sometimes tries something, but here, no, they're going to play it very quickly, really very quickly. Just not to waste any more time. There's no need to spend 15, 20 minutes to fight out this position. Because the last chance maybe for white is the king is cut off. So king h7, king g6 would simply seal the deal, seal the day. So a great fighting draw. And this means, Keti, that we are going to have all the classical games.
Yeah, if this ends in a draw, and yesterday we had also a draw, then tomorrow we're going to have a day off. They will rest. They will prepare for the next game where Goryachkina will take white pieces. Tan Zhongyi will be with black pieces, and maybe after the rest they will have a new energy and something new to offer the opponent and surprise the opponent. We're gonna see that in 2 days.
But you really have to give a lot of credit for both players. First, how it was Tan, who managed to create problems with this knight e5, right? Remember we were discussing, maybe you need to go there, here, liquidate this into a draw. No, she managed to find some problems. D takes, knight e5, rook d4, very powerful centralization. And then it was Alexandra's return to show the very accurate defensive setup. So from afar, this looked a bit passive. We didn't really like it. But after a couple of very, very precise moves, queen d6, knight c5, and ending with this very spectacular piece sacrifice, which maybe was missed by Tan Zhongyi, or she was hoping that black is not going to find it. Perfect defense by Goryachkina.
Agree. I think this is very close to be a very accurate game with not much of up and downs. Also, a very interesting opening at the beginning. We have seen something new from Goryachkina. Instead of going to the classical lines there, she decided to play something else. They are just playing next moves now. I don't believe any of them going to create any pressure, any problems here. White will keep the rook on a file. White will keep the king on g2, h2 squares, and that's going to be it.
I think it's going to be h takes, king g6, draw offer. Or maybe h takes, rook a1, draw offer. So let's just wait for the final moves.
2 more moves to be played, or 3 to be eligible to offer a draw.
Yeah, so you need to make at least 40 moves to secure a draw, because the rules prohibit you offer a draw before move 40. This is what we call the Soviet rule. And this rule is enforced at the highest level with the purpose to avoid quick draws. Thanks to some of the men grandmasters in the history who have made a lot of quick draws in before, the rule was enforced to make people play. But I mean, there's just nothing to be seen in this game.
But the good thing about this, not good thing, bad thing about that rule is that if you want to make a draw, you can still make a draw with the other way. And there's for sure those people who likes to make a draw in that way and agree on a draw, they are finding the way. So basically for me personally, I repeat this often, that makes no sense to have this Soviet rule at all in this type of competitions.
All right, so Goryachkina is choosing her final move, rook a1 or king g6. You know, maybe she's the perfectionist type, maybe made the most active move like rook a1 and then offer a draw. Black has the passed pawn on a6, but it doesn't go anywhere because white always will have enough counterplay here. I'm a bit surprised. She's thinking, maybe she's thinking about what she's going to say in the interview. I don't know.
Well, I was better.
No, I don't think she's going to say that.
No, it's a joke.
She's going to say she's never had any real problems.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That was true. But also, let's be honest. Chen Zhengyi also had some of the challenges in the opening and then in the middle game to find the most accurate move, because we have seen some of the tricks also for white from that point of view. So not much of the sparklings as we had yesterday, indeed, with the tactical motives as well. But for opening point of view, it was very interesting for us. Indeed, we saw something very classical and some new ideas. And also, I think for our viewers, it's very good to have this kind of middle game and the end games. I think they shared the score sheet, so it's move 40 and rook a4 has been played and offered a draw.
Right. Shake hands, draw agreed. And this also means that the score remains level. 1 each, 2 draws at the start of the match. Very, very tense game so far. Still, I think Tan should be very happy how the match has been ongoing for her, because she was pressing the first game with black, was very close to score a victory, but not quite was there. And then in the second game, at least she was a little bit pressing, but still both players were quite tired after yesterday's marathon game. And I guess both of them are simply happy that they can have a rest day tomorrow.
Yep, today in the evening, tomorrow, whole day, they're going to have the preparation. 2 games in the classical segment has been ended. We have another 2 games coming up around game 3 and game 4. In case of a tie, if this match goes with the draws all the way, 4 games, then we're going to have a tie breaks, which is more exciting. Format of the chess, indeed, where we're going to have 15 minutes plus 10 seconds for each player. That's going to be 4 games. And in case if that's a tie, then we're going to have blitz games until the first victory of one of the players. So a lot of excitement ahead of us, guys. Thank you so much for being with us on YouTube and Twitch channel. You're definitely helping us to be a good company and also to suggest great ideas, really great ideas. And thanks very much. Please make sure that you join us the day after tomorrow. Tomorrow will be no coverage on Twitch and YouTube channel, but from the day after tomorrow, we're going to have 2 days in a row of the classical chess. And that's going to be last 2 games, Artur, for this tournament, for Pool B at the candidates, women candidates 2022.
Right, so we can confirm indeed there's 2 more classical games. So even if one of the players is going to win, not tomorrow, but day after tomorrow, there's still the 4th game. And the way this match is ongoing, I wouldn't completely rule out also the tiebreaks.
Yes, that's indeed best day for us, for commentators, to see all these exciting situations with tiebreaks are bringing with short time of the control. I think our viewers also like, I don't know about chess players, it's too much pressure for them. But if that's the way to go to the finals of the candidate tournament, they are ready to do so. Guys, this is a tournament, the cycle of the World Championship match. Lei Tingzhi, the winner of the Pool A, is waiting for the winner of the Pool B. One of these 2 players, Tan Zhongyi or Goryachkina, will face her in the finals of the candidate tournament. And then the winner of the candidates will face the current women world champion from China, Zhu Wenjun, which is also waiting for her challenger. Probably next year will be the match, and that's a lot of intrigue indeed. But that's for future, and now it's time to call it a day. Thanks very much, Artur, and also to our broadcast team to put things together. Thank you guys in the chat, and we will meet each other the day after tomorrow. Bye.
Bye. Bye.